Chapter 4018. The madman and the white-eyed wolf looked at each other, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the golden small beast, their brows tightly knitted together. The small beast was obviously deliberately provoking Qin Feiyang. Logically speaking, with Qin Feiyang's calm mind, he shouldn't be provoked by the small beast. Others might not understand, but they knew that defeating the small beast had always been Qin Feiyang's long-cherished wish. What kind of hatred do they have? Even gambling with the lives of several continents? This matter. Even Long Chen didn't know, not to mention people like Yun Ziang and Li Zhongsheng. A great hatred. The madman transmitted his voice. At this time, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of the king and the other two. You really dare to come out and challenge? Ryuko's face was full of ridicule. It was as if he was mocking Qin Feiyang for overestimating himself. Qin Feiyang glanced at Ryuko, and the power of death rolled out. The 18 layers of hell instantly appeared, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted, carrying the power of destruction as it suppressed Ryuko. As expected, once you master the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, you will master the ultimate meaning of the law of death and the law of life at the same time. In other words, little Qinzi now, in addition to the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he has also mastered the ultimate meaning of the three strongest laws. The white-eyed wolf whispered, "Don't forget, he also has the ultimate meaning of the law of light. In total, he has now mastered 5 ultimate meanings. Damn it, more than me." The madman was indignant. "More than you? Are you kidding me? Now you have also mastered 5 ultimate meanings." Li Feng was speechless. The madman was slightly taken aback, then patted his head and nodded. "Yes, just now, I have already comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of death. The law of death, law of destruction, law of space, law of slaughter, law of thunder. These were the ultimate meanings that the madman had mastered." On the other side, seeing Qin Feiyang directly attacking without saying anything, Ryuko's expression changed on the spot. He hurriedly activated his 3,000 incarnations, and 6,000 ultimate meanings appeared, turning into a torrent of beasts that blasted towards the 18 layers of hell. Boom! Accompanied by a heaven-shaking explosion, the 18 layers of hell were shattered. Hell. Although the heavens will of death, he still hadn't activated his 3,000 incarnations. At this moment, he had only one death, and didn't even activate his 3,000 incarnations. A single ultimate profundity of the law of death would naturally not be able to block 6,000 ultimate profundities. Thus, Qin Feiyang was not surprised at all. He didn't activate the 3,000's will. Zelly-eyed Emperor didn't use had's will of God didn't use him. Will Z was now, it had was. Will with a thought, 1,000 clones appeared. Bang! S is this God will Z. That was. There were only one. S. However, every ultimate profundity contained the will of the heavenly Tao. Qin Feiyang just wanted to see how strong an ultimate profundity that possessed the will of the heavenly Tao was. 1,000 against 6,000. The difference between them was a full 6 times. Anyone who saw this scene would think that Qin Feiyang was like an ant trying to shake a tree, because the difference of 6 times was too big. But at this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation, because all of them wanted to know exactly what the difference was between an ultimate profundity without the will of the heavenly Tao and an ultimate profundity with the will of the heavenly Tao. In the blink of an eye, the two ultimates turned into torrents, exuding overwhelming power as they blasted towards each other. Boom! Accompanied by a loud explosion, the two torrents finally met in the void. A wave of destructive energy swept out in all directions like a tide. In the next moment, the two ultimates began to shatter. In less than 10 breaths, Qin Feiyang's 1,000 ultimates and Ryuko's 6,000 ultimates all collapsed and dissipated in the void. They were evenly matched. This scene shocked Madman and the others who were watching the battle, as well as Qin Feiyang who was on the battlefield. 1,000 against 6,000, they were actually evenly matched. In other words, the will of death increased the power of the ultimate S by 6 times. Wasn't this kind of improvement a little too terrifying? One ultimate S, with the will of death was enough to compete with 6 ultimates without the will of death. It was really unbelievable. Everyone's desire for the will of death instantly rose to the extreme. I can definitely do it. White-eyed Wolf clenched his fists. He had this potential more than anyone else. This was because he himself had grasped 6 supreme laws of nature, and now he had also mastered 4 ultimate, with only the life and destruction laws left. As long as he comprehended the ultimate S with the life and destruction laws, or fused the inheritance of 2 ultimate, he would successfully possess the will of death. At that time, his strength would instantly increase by a large margin. Will of death. Ryuko stared at Qin Feiyang, his expression extremely ferocious. 1,000 ultimate with 6,000 ultimate? What kind of joke was this? I don't accept this. Along with a hysterical roar, his entire body radiated dazzling purple-gold divine light. Roar. The next moment, with a heaven-shaking dragon roar, a purple-gold divine dragon tens of thousands of feet long appeared. It was Ryuko's true body. Each dragon scale seemed to be forged from divine jade. Dragon might spread out, shaking the world. Boom. Not only him, but even the 3,000 clones behind him had turned into purple-gold divine dragons. Their terrifying auras caused the madman and the others to feel a chill in their hearts. The moment they returned to their true bodies, the 3,000 clones, including Ryuko, all activated their ultimate at the same time and madly charged at Qin Feiyang. Their eyes filled with jealousy and hatred. A human was actually more outstanding than him. Although Qin Feiyang also had purple-gold dragon blood, could it compare to him? He was a true purple-gold divine dragon. No matter what, he could not lose to this human. An ant should have the awareness of an ant. Qin Feiyang's eyes were very calm. In the past, Ryuko might have been able to threaten him, but now he had comprehended the ultimate of the law of life and death and merged with the will of death. It was no exaggeration to say that he was not even qualified to be his opponent. The ultimate of the law of death and the law of karma were activated at the same time. Previously, he had not lost even when facing 6 paths with 1,000, let alone now. 2,000 ultimate S of the law of life and deaths of the law of life and death crushed the void and the earth with an unstoppable momentum. Seeing this scene, Ryuko felt despair. Too strong. Just this of the law of life and death was enough to make him unable to fight back. One had to know. His opponent had not even activated the Eye of Heaven in the law of life and death. But now, he did not even have the ability to make Qin Feiyang activate the Eye of Heaven? Thinking back to the past, although he could not defeat Qin Feiyang, at least Qin Feiyang had to go all out when facing him. But now, he was afraid that even if he used all his skills, he would not be able to make Qin Feiyang activate the Eye of Heaven. The gap was not small anymore. Seeing that Ryuko's blood was about to splatter in the sky, seeing that Ryuko's confidence and fighting spirit was being destroyed by Qin Feiyang, the king's eyes darkened as he stepped in front of Ryuko. Grandfather. Ryuko looked at the king's back with gloomy eyes. Don't be discouraged. The purple-gold divine dragon race has always had the spirit of not admitting defeat. We cannot lose confidence because of one failure. If you can't even withstand this setback, what right do you have to call yourself a purple-gold divine dragon? What right do you have to be my grandson? As his voice fell, a monstrous divine aura erupted. 3,000 clones appeared in the void behind him, and ultimate intents instantly occupied half the sky. There were a total of 18,000 ultimate intents. Boom. With a wave of the king's hand, 18,000 ultimate intents shot out. This was definitely a situation of suppression, because not only did the number far exceed Qin Feiyang's, but these 18,000 ultimate intents also contained the will of the heavenly Tao. There was no suspense. Qin Feiyang's 2,000 ultimate intents were easily crushed. However, after crushing Qin Feiyang's ultimate intents, the king did not continue to kill Qin Feiyang, and the 18,000 ultimate intents stopped in the void. Speak. Who do you want to challenge? The king looked at Qin Feiyang, and the more he looked, the more satisfied he was, but at the same time, the more apprehensive he was. If this person was from their divine nation, It would be a great thing for him as the monarch of the divine nation. However, this child was born in the sky cloud realm, and no matter what, he was not willing to follow him to the divine kingdom. From the perspective of an opponent and enemy, this child's means and potential were definitely enough to threaten the divine kingdom. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang looked at the king, then at the divine king and the human race's supremacy. Supremacy? Are you confident in defeating him? The divine king asked telepathically. The human race's supremacy's eyes flickered as he analyzed in his mind. In the end, he sighed and said, if he doesn't have the 3,000 clones and the Eye of Heaven, he might have a chance of winning. Might? The divine king was surprised. Yes, might. Even if he doesn't have the Eye of Heaven and the 3,000 clones, he still has the ultimate intents of the law of life and death and the will of the heavenly Tao. The ultimate intents of the law of life and death are much stronger than the ultimate intents of the law of life and death. Coupled with his will of the heavenly Tao, I'm afraid that even if you activate the God Race mark and the will of the heavenly Tao, you won't be able to block the ultimate intents of the law of life and death. The human race's supremacy side. Yes, as long as this child comprehends the ultimate intents of the law of life and death, he will have completely grown up. I'm afraid that apart from the king, no one in the divine kingdom can stop him. The divine king's expression was extremely complicated, but at the same time, he was also extremely angry. If it wasn't for the fact that the king cared about the divine dragon sword and made an agreement with Qin Feiyang, how could there be such a situation? What was even more infuriating was that, in the end, in order to rescue Ryuko and the others, they made a 10,000-year agreement and even made a blood oath. Wasn't this equivalent to giving Qin Feiyang time to grow? I know what you're thinking, but things have already come to this point. It's useless to blame anyone. Besides, the king must be regretting it now. Besides, how smart is the king? How could he not think of this? He must think that even if Qin Feiyang is given another 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years, he won't be able to comprehend the ultimate intents of the law of life and death. It's not just the king. Didn't we think the same back then? But who would have thought that in just a few decades, he would be able to comprehend the ultimate intents of the law of life and death, instantly reaching the heavens in a single step? So, if we want to talk about the responsibility, it's not all on the king. The two of us are also responsible because we underestimated this child's comprehension ability and potential. The human race's supremacy side. Chapter 40:19. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered as he transmitted his voice, Little Qin Zi, challenging the sovereign of the human race or the divine king. That's right. Although they are strong, they don't have 3,000 incarnations and are easier to deal with than the monarch. The madman also said excitedly. As long as Qin Feiyang won this battle, he would be able to obtain the inheritance of the 10 ultimate laws. For the Sky Cloud realm, this was something they didn't even dare to think about. But now, the opportunity was right in front of their eyes. And as long as they won this battle, the sovereign of the divine kingdom wouldn't intervene in the battle between them and the monarch for 10,000 years. They definitely wouldn't dare to easily believe the promise of the divine kingdom. But now it was different. Now there was Ice Dragon and Small Beast personally overseeing. If the divine kingdom dared to break the promise again, they would inevitably face the wrath of Ice Dragon and Small Beast. In other words, Ice Dragon and Small Beast were witnesses now. If you break the promise, you won't give them face. With the character of these two bastards, not giving them face was simply courting death. Therefore, there couldn't be any accidents in this battle. Not only was it related to Qin Feiyang's dignity, but it was also related to the fate of the Sky Cloud realm in the future. Since they couldn't lose, they naturally had to choose the weaker ones. Qin Feiyang was silent for a moment, then suddenly looked at the sky and said, I still want to adhere to the previous conditions. As long as I win this battle, the older generation of the divine kingdom can't make a move. Absolutely impossible. An ethereal voice sounded. If Qin Feiyang could even defeat the 3 monarchs, then in the future, in a one-on-one situation, in the entire divine kingdom, except for him, the sovereign, who else could be Qin Feiyang's opponent? At that time, If the older generation of the Divine Kingdom were restricted from making a move, then wouldn't Qin Fei Yang be able to do whatever he wanted in the Divine Kingdom? Because the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom couldn't stop him now, they could only rely on the older generation. Moreover, even the older generation couldn't fight Qin Fei Yang one-on-one. In a one-on-one fight, he would definitely lose. Qin Fei Yang looked a little annoyed as he said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, we'll have to add another 5 ultimate intents." 5 more? Everyone looked at each other in anticipation and nervousness. Don't be unsatisfied. 10 ultimate profound legacies is already my limit, the misty voice said angrily. Everything was caused by the Divine Kingdom. I don't think it's too much to ask for the inheritance of 15 ultimate mysteries. Qin Fei Yang didn't want to be outdone, so he fought back. Not too much. Opposite. The Divine King raised his eyebrows and looked at Qin Fei Yang. Do you know the value of an inheritance? Then, do you know how much damage your Divine Kingdom has brought to our Sky Cloud realm? Qin Fei Yang looked at the Divine King, anger rising in his eyes. The Divine King said angrily, "In these years of confrontation, it seems that your Sky Cloud realm has always had the upper hand. What damage can there be? Aren't your words a bit unreasonable? You invaded the Sky Cloud realm, aren't you harming us? Now, you came to kill us, aren't you harming us? If it wasn't for the Feather Emperor and the others who moved the creatures of the Western continent in advance, what do you think the Western continent would be like now? Let me tell you, the people will be in a terrible situation, and blood will flow like a river," Qin Fei Yang said in a deep voice. After causing so much damage to the Sky Cloud realm, they still put on an aggrieved look. How could their skin be so thick? The Divine King frowned. Okay, let's not talk about this time. Let's talk about the last time. The last time you came to the Sky Cloud realm, the entire continent fell apart, and countless creatures died tragically. And the Nether King's hell? All the creatures of the Nether King's hell died in the hands of Ji Yun Hai and the others. Isn't this harming us? The monstrous sins you bear will never be washed away. Qin Fei Yang shouted, his hair standing on end. After hearing his words, the Divine King was speechless. Although the God Race didn't participate in the battle last time, it was undeniable that the God Race was also a member of the Divine Kingdom. The God Race naturally couldn't escape the responsibility of the sins committed by the Divine Kingdom. If there isn't an inheritance of 15 ultimate laws, I refuse to challenge you. Let Ice Dragon and the others kill their way to the Divine Kingdom and let you experience the taste of despair. Qin Fei Yang said each word with a pause, his eyes filled with strong killing intent. This kid, he actually used us to scare them. The golden small beast grumbled. Who asked us to stand here now? Ice Dragon shook his head. Hearing Qin Fei Yang's words, the king and the others couldn't help but look at Ice Dragon and the small beast, their eyes full of wariness. The ruler of the Divine Kingdom also fell silent. After a long time, the ethereal voice finally sounded. All right, as you wish. I'll give you the inheritance of 15 ultimate laws of nature. However, if you lose, you'll be my slave for the rest of your life. You are not worthy. Qin Fei Yang smiled coldly and looked at the king. I challenge you. What? The madman and the white-eyed wolf's expressions froze. Didn't he challenge the Divine King and the human sovereign? Why did he impulsively challenge the king? This person could become the king of the Divine Kingdom, so his strength must be above the human sovereign and the Divine King. How foolish. There was a ready-made soft persimmon, but he had to pick a bone that was difficult to chew. The Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the little rabbit had also come to the side of the madman and the others. Seeing Qin Fei Yang's decision, they couldn't help but feel a little angry. They knew the reason why Qin Fei Yang challenged the king. Because the king was the highest authority of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. First, he challenged the king for the princess of the Divine Kingdom. Second, he wanted to prove to the king that a human possessing the Purple Gold Divine Dragon's blood might not be a disgrace to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. It could also be a pride. But now, was it the time to be impulsive? The inheritance of 15 ultimate laws and the ruler behind the king and the others were the key. However, they also knew What Qin Feiyang had decided would not change because of anyone. Now, they could only pray that Qin Feiyang could win this battle. The king was also surprised by Qin Feiyang's challenge. At first, he also thought that Qin Feiyang might challenge the divine king or the human sovereign. However, he didn't expect that without saying a word, he would directly target him. Challenging him was tantamount to challenging the entire purple gold divine dragon clan, or even the entire divine kingdom, because as the king, he represented the divine kingdom. If he lost to him, it wouldn't be shameful. After all, he was the strongest person in the divine kingdom. But if he could defeat him, not only could he obtain 15 inheritances, but he could also raise the fighting spirit of the Sky Cloud realm. At the same time, he could suppress the morale of the divine kingdom. It could be said to be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. However, did he really think he could defeat him? In a one-on-one battle, the Eye of Heaven could be ignored, because the Eye of Heaven needed a long time to copy the ultimate laws. He was confident, and also had the ability to forcefully interrupt Qin Feiyang before he could copy it. So, the only thing that could threaten him was the ultimate laws of life and death. He didn't know how strong the ultimate laws of life and death were. However, on the whole, the ultimate profundities that he had grasped far surpassed Qin Feiyang's. This was his capital. Since you chose me, then go all out, the king said. Before he could finish his words, the 18,000 ultimate meanings floating in the void instantly erupted with a monstrous divine might. They shattered the vast sky and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Of course, I will go all out. Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold, and his 3,000 incarnations instantly activated. Life with a thought, death with a thought, heaven with a thought, hell with a thought, kingdom of life and death, descend. The 3,000 incarnations looked pious, as if they were praying to the heavens. Their loud voices shook all directions. As their voices fell, streaks of shocking might surged out from the sky. At this moment, everyone looked up at the sky. Kingdom of life and death. This should be the ultimate law of life and death. How heaven-defying was it? They were really looking forward to it. The originally clear sky surged with the power of life and death. Black and white alternated, emitting an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Boom. The next moment, 3,000 kingdoms appeared. Each of these kingdoms was like an independent world, boundless. One side was heaven, and the other was hell. And in the center of each kingdom, everyone could see a figure. This figure was exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. It was as if he was the heavenly Tao of these kingdoms, looking down on the world. 3,000 incarnations, 3,000 kingdoms. Everyone looked at these 3,000 kingdoms and felt a sense of insignificance. It was as if they were facing 3,000 worlds, and even their divine souls were trembling. At this moment, the monarch's 18,000 strands of ultimates were about to reach Qin Feiyang. Suppress. Qin Feiyang took a step back and raised his hand. The 3,000 kingdoms of life and death instantly carried an aura as mighty as the heavenly might, shattering the sky and pressing down on the 18,000 ultimate Upanishads. Boom! A series of loud noises immediately sounded, deafening everyone's ears. This part of heaven and earth instantly turned into chaos. Terrifying waves of air surged out in all directions like an avalanche. With Small Beast and Ice Dragon around, Frenzy and the others naturally didn't have to worry about being affected by the battle. At this moment, they stood in the wind and watched the 3,000 kingdoms collide with the 18,000 ultimate laws. Their faces were full of shock. Each kingdom of life and death could shatter an ultimate profound. However, Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf couldn't help but frown at this result. Wasn't it said that the ultimate laws of life and death could crush the ultimate laws of the strongest laws? But why was there a situation where they were evenly matched? Didn't you guys notice that Qin Feiyang hasn't activated the will of the heavenly Tao? Long Chun looked at the two of them. He hasn't activated the will of the heavenly Tao? Frenzy and the others focused their eyes. As expected, the 3,000 kingdoms didn't contain the will of the heavenly Tao. In other words, the 3,000 kingdoms only had their own power. The power of the kingdoms could compete with the ultimate laws of the strongest laws that had fused with the will of the heavenly Tao. One had to know. Whether or not they had fused with the will of the heavenly Tao was a completely different concept. Qin Feiyong had personally tested it before. An ultimate law with the will of the heavenly Tao was 6 times more lethal than one without the will of the heavenly Tao. In other words, each of the monarch's 18,000 ultimate profundities were 6 times more powerful than ordinary ultimate profundities. 6 times was equivalent to 6 low-level sovereign divine weapons. Chapter 40:20. At this moment, Qin Feiyong's kingdom of life and death didn't contain the will of the heavenly Tao. Without the will of the heavenly Tao, it could compete with the king's ultimate meaning. In other words, without the will of the heavenly Tao, the kingdom of life and death could compete with 6 sovereign weapons. Wasn't this heaven-defying enough? In the past, everyone said that the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death could crush the ultimate meaning of the strongest law, but no one expected it to be to this extent. This kind of gap was separated by the will of the heavenly Tao, because the will of the heavenly Tao could also increase one's combat power by 6 times. If, at this time, the king's ultimate meaning didn't integrate with the will of the heavenly Tao, wouldn't these 3,000 ultimate meaning of the law of life and death be able to compete with the king's 18,000 ultimate meaning? Because without the will of the heavenly Tao, one ultimate meaning of the law of life and death could compete with 6 ultimate meaning. 3,000 multiplied by 6, wouldn't that be 18,000? Strong. The frenzy in the white-eyed wolf's eyes trembled. The ultimate meaning of the law of life and death was so strong without the will of the heavenly Tao. If Qin Feiyong activated the will of the heavenly Tao, the power of the kingdom of life and death would increase by 6 times. How terrifying would that be? Even if it was the monarch's 18,000 ultimate meanings, it would still be a one-sided battle. This was the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death? It was hard to imagine. In this battle, Qin Feiyong would win. Dozens of breaths passed. The 3,000 kingdom of life and death finally collapsed. 3,000 of the monarch's 18,000 ultimates had crumbled. Although the king had the upper hand in the first round, he couldn't be happy at all, because he had already discovered that Qin Feiyong didn't activate the will of the heavenly Tao. He must end the battle quickly. With a wave of his hand, the remaining 15,000 ultimate meaning rushed towards Qin Feiyong like a tide. The ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Finally, my efforts were not in vain. A smile crept onto Qin Feiyong's face. In order to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, how many difficulties had he experienced over the years? Especially before. In order to protect him, everyone almost died in battle. Now, the bitterness was finally over. The lethality was comparable to 6 sovereign weapons. Who could imagine? It was no wonder that the life and death laws were so difficult to comprehend, and the heavenly tribulation was so terrifying. There was a reason for this. It was because the laws of life and death were too powerful. If he wanted to possess such a powerful technique, he would have to endure it. If you can't, you'll lose everything, even your life. If he could endure it, he would reach the heavens in a single bound. After testing the might of the life and death law's ultimate profundity, Qin Feiyong's confidence soared, and he no longer held back. If he was still unable to defeat the monarch even with such powerful means, he might as well just bang his head against a wall. Boom! Accompanied by a terrifying aura, the 3,000 kingdoms of life and death once again descended from the sky. Will of the heavenly Tao, open. Qin Feiyong's eyes were like torches. As the will of the heavenly Tao was activated, the 3,000 kingdoms of life and death instantly erupted with an even more terrifying aura. At this moment, not only this region, but the entire western continent began to tremble. The giant mountains continued to crumble. The ground caved in madly. Abyssal rifts spread across the entire continent like giant pythons. At this moment, if one were to look down from the sky, they would definitely see an earth-shattering scene. The entire western continent was being destroyed. The rifts were so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. It was as if a layer of spiderweb had been laid out. This was a disaster. It was doomsday. But fortunately, all the living beings in the western continent had already retreated. Otherwise, this instant would be enough to turn the western continent into a sea of corpses and blood. On the battlefield, the white-eyed wolf and the others were extremely excited. With such a powerful kingdoms of life and death and the will of the heavenly Tao, wouldn't they be able to kill even gods? But on the other side, Ryuko and Jiang Yunshuang, who were standing behind the human race's supremacy and the divine king, were horrified. Not only them, but even the human race's supremacy and the divine king couldn't help but turn pale at this moment. The power of the life and death law's ultimate profundity was far beyond their imagination. Originally, they still had a trace of luck in their hearts. With their strength, they might be able to defeat Qin Feiyang. But now, after witnessing the terror of the life and death law's ultimate profundity with their own eyes, that bit of luck in their hearts instantly disappeared. Facing this kid, they would definitely lose. In an instant, the 3,000 kingdoms of life and death met with the 15,000 ultimate profundities. The kingdoms of life and death that had merged with the will of the heavenly Tao was simply like a god descending to the mortal world, unstoppable. One kingdoms of life and death was enough to compete with 6 ultimate profundities. The king's ultimate profundities were shattered wave after wave. So powerful. The monarch himself was also dumbfounded by what he saw. The lethality displayed by this kingdoms of life and death was even more terrifying than the legends. But now, even he suddenly lost his confidence. One kingdoms of life and death that contained the will of the heavenly Tao could compete with his 6 ultimate profundities. Wouldn't 3,000 kingdoms of life and death be able to compete with 18,000 ultimate profundities? In other words, now, Qin Feiyang could compete with him just by relying on the ultimate profundities of the life and death law and the will of the heavenly Tao. Moreover, in addition to the ultimate profundities of the life and death law, Qin Feiyang also had several other ultimate profundities: karma law, death law, life law, and light law. These 4 ultimate profundities had yet to be activated. If all of them were activated, how ridiculous would it be? Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, all 15,000 ultimate profundities were shattered. However, Qin Feiyang still had 500 kingdoms of life and death left. The outcome has been decided. There's no need to activate the Eye of Heaven. Qin Feiyang's eyes shone brightly. The remaining 500 kingdoms of life and death immediately attacked the king. The outcome has been decided? If I only have this bit of strength, am I still worthy to be the king of the divine kingdom? The king snorted coldly. The 3,000 avatars behind him once again activated an ultimate profundity. What? This is the karma law's ultimate profundity. Frenzy and the others were shocked. Previously, the king activated the 6 ultimate profundities of the time law: time array, devour law, death law, nothingness law, and destruction law. But now, he activated the karma law's ultimate profundity. In other words, he had mastered a total of 7 ultimate profundities of the time law. Not to mention 7 ultimate profundities of the time law. To be able to comprehend 7 ordinary ultimate profundities of the time law was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. That was too strong. Out of the 8 ultimate profundities of the time law, the king had mastered 7. Only the life law had yet to be mastered. After reaching the sovereign realm, there was no limit to the number of profundities one could comprehend. For example, Qin Feiyang had already comprehended 7 profundities of the time law when he was in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance: light law, force law, wind law, force law, slaughter law, thunder law, karma law, and later, he even obtained the destruction law in the Devil Land. That was equivalent to 8 ultimate profundities of the time law. As long as he continued to comprehend and had the ability, he would be able to comprehend the ultimate profundities of these profundities of the time law. Now, it was naturally even more terrifying, because he had comprehended the life law, death law, and life and death law. In other words, the current Qin Feiyang alone had mastered 11 types of profundities of the time law. When he finally comprehended the ultimate profundities, What kind of scene would that be? He would probably scare the others to death. Boom. The 3,000 ultimate profundities of the time law, after activating the will of the heavenly Tao, immediately rushed towards the 500 life and death kingdoms. Another series of earth-shattering noises. In the end, the ultimate profundities of both sides were destroyed in the void. 7 ultimate profundities of the time law, powerful indeed. Qin Feiyong looked at the king in admiration. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It was the purple gold dragon blood. You're not bad either. If it were the divine king and the human race supreme, you would have one by now. The king was full of praise for Qin Feiyong. Similarly, purple gold dragon blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. When the divine king and the human race supreme heard this, they immediately looked at the king in dissatisfaction. Wasn't it just relying on the 3,000 incarnations? Without the 3,000 incarnations, it was still unknown who would win and who would lose. Qin Feiyong glanced at the divine king and the human race supreme, then looked at the king and said, "Then please answer me now. Is the purple gold dragon blood still a disgrace on a human?" The king was stunned and frowned. "This is the reason why you challenged me?" "That's right. I just want to prove that although we both have the purple gold dragon blood, I am stronger than the descendants of the purple gold divine dragon clan. I also want the ancestor to see that she was right to choose the human emperor in this life. Not only me, Qin Feiyong, but the descendants of the Qin clan will also be more outstanding than the descendants of the purple gold divine dragon clan." Qin Feiyong stepped out. The Karma Divine Lotus, the 18 levels of hell, and the kingdom of life and death roared out in unison. The 3,000 incarnations behind him also activated the 3 ultimate profundities in an instant. The 3,000 kingdom of life and death, combined with the will of the heavenly way, was enough to contend with 18,000 ultimate profundities. The 3,000 Karma Divine Lotus and the 18 levels of hell could also contend with the 6,000 ultimate profundities of the king. In total, it was 24,000 profundities. In other words, although he couldn't compare to the king in terms of quantity, he had surpassed the king in terms of quality, because even if the king had mastered the 7 ultimate profundities, after the 3,000 incarnations activated, there would only be 21,000 profundities. There was a difference of 3,000 profundities. Did he still need to activate the Eye of Heaven? Not at all. Watch carefully. The Qin clan will definitely surpass the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan in the future. Qin Feiyong roared. 903 ultimate profundities instantly turned into a raging wave and surged toward the king. "I look forward to your surpassing." The king took a step forward and activated the 7 ultimate profundities. Behind him, the 21,000 ultimate profundities of the 3,000 incarnations also appeared instantly. Immediately, 21,007 ultimate profound surged out in a mighty manner. Seeing this, Ice Dragon waved his hand. An invisible force surged and turned into a shield wall in front of him. The white-eyed wolf and the others ran behind Ice Dragon and Small Beast. The collision between the two was equivalent to the collision of tens of thousands of sovereign divine weapons. No, there would be more, because their ultimate profundities were supported by the will of the heavenly Tao. If one really calculated, it might be the sum of hundreds of thousands of sovereign divine weapons. This kind of fluctuation wasn't something they could withstand. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the 2 ultimate profundities finally collided. At the same time, an invisible will descended and protected the 4 supreme beings of the human race as well. But the Western continent wasn't so lucky. More than half of the Western continent was turned into ashes in an instant. It turned into chaos, just like the beginning of heaven and earth. Even the heavenly cloud ocean, the eastern continent, the northern continent, the southern continent, and the various forbidden areas could feel the terrifying aura. All living beings in the heavenly cloud realm. At this moment, they were all looking in the direction of the western continent with shock and worry between their brows. Chapter 40:21. In the chaos, the wind howled. Terrifying fluctuations surged like a raging sea. In such an environment, even a sovereign weapon would shatter in an instant. Madman and the others stood behind Ice Dragon and Small Beast. Their hearts were in turmoil. On one hand, it was because of Qin Feiyang. Before comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, even the heavens' prides of the divine kingdom would have to struggle to defeat them. But now, after comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, his combat strength instantly soared to another level. No, not just one level. Now Qin Feiyang's combat strength could be said to be 10 times, or even 100 times higher than before. Let's not talk about Madman and the White-Eyed Wolf. After all, he was brothers with Qin Feiyang. It was impossible to have a bloody battle with him. But Long Chun was confident that he could compete with Qin Feiyang, because his God's domain could not only restrain the 3,000 incarnations, but also the ultimate meaning. Once he entered the God's domain, the 3,000 incarnations and the ultimate meaning couldn't be activated. This was his confidence. But at this moment, looking at Qin Feiyang standing in front of him, he no longer had this confidence. However, he wasn't jealous. On the contrary, he was gratified, because Qin Feiyang was able to successfully master the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, partly because of him. It was simple. If it wasn't for him, Madman, and the others desperately protecting Qin Feiyang, he would have died in the hands of Ryuko and the others. Chun'er, do you regret helping him now? Suddenly, Ice Dragon's voice sounded in Long Chen's mind. Why do you say that? Long Chun was stunned and looked at Ice Dragon puzzledly. Because you indirectly created a strong enemy in the future. Ice Dragon secretly said. Strong enemy? Long Chun shook his head and smiled. It's hard to say whether we'll be enemies in the future. Even if we do become enemies in the future, I won't regret what I did today because I didn't do it for them, but for the entire Sky Cloud realm. Hearing this, Ice Dragon's face was filled with gratification. He sighed. If your mother could be as open-minded as you, how could the dragons of the ancient world have fallen into such a state where everyone hates them and wants to kill them? Long Chen muttered to himself, Mother was wrong, but she is still your wife. Father knows. Otherwise, I wouldn't have saved her when the dragons were exterminated. Ice Dragon nodded. Suddenly, the father and son noticed that Long Chen, who was next to them, had been silent the whole time. His face was faintly pale, and there was even a trace of fear. Qin'er, what's wrong? Don't tell me you were scared silly by Qin Feiyang's strength. Long Chun was suspicious. In the face of such ridicule, Long Qin didn't get angry at all. How was this her character? If it were any other time, she would have rolled her eyes at Long Chen. But at this moment, she grabbed Long Chen's arm as if she was looking for a sense of security. She also looked at Ice Dragon from time to time with a panicked look. Girl, what are you doing? I don't think I provoked you? Ice Dragon was puzzled. Long Chen was still silent. Qin'er, what's wrong with you? Long Chun couldn't help but worry. Long Chen looked at Ice Dragon, summoned up her courage, and asked, What did you mean by that? What did I say? Ice Dragon was puzzled. You told me not to call you father. Long Chen whispered, tears almost flowing out. Did you say that? Hearing this, Long Chun immediately looked at Ice Dragon. Ice Dragon was also stunned and nodded. Yes, I did say that. Why is that? Long Chun was confused. Ice Dragon smiled bitterly and said, You silly girl. I told you not to call me father because I don't want the people of the Divine Kingdom to know about our relationship. Long Chen was stunned, and a trace of joy appeared in her eyes. She asked, Is that all? What else do you think? Ice Dragon was helpless. I thought you didn't recognize me as your daughter. Long Chen looked aggrieved. What are you thinking? How can I not recognize you? Whether it's you or your brother, you are my flesh and blood. I only feel sorry for you, because I have never been with you since you were young. Ice Dragon sighed secretly, and there was deep self-reproach on his face. Long Chun was sad, but soon calmed down and said, Are you worried that the Divine Kingdom will specifically target us after knowing about our relationship with you? Yes. I don't want you and your brother to become a bargaining chip for them to blackmail me. So you must keep this matter a secret, and also tell Qin Feiyang and the others not to reveal this to the Divine Kingdom. Ice Dragon said secretly, Okay. Long Chen nodded and asked secretly, Father, after the battle is over, can you stay for a while? I want to have a good chat with you. Ice Dragon looked deeply at Long Chun and nodded with a smile. Okay. During the conversation, the outcome of the battle had been decided. Not a single one of the monarch's 21,000 ultimate profound meanings remained. They were completely annihilated. But Qin Feiyang's side still had dozens of ultimates of the kingdom of life and death, and hundreds of ultimates of the law of karma and the law of death. Although there were only dozens of ultimates of the kingdom of life and death, their power was not inferior to the hundreds of ultimates of the law of karma and the law of death. Let's end this. As Qin Feiyang said these three words, the remaining ultimates immediately turned into a torrent and drowned the king. The purple gold dragon blood dyed the chaotic area. However, just when everyone thought the battle was over, a majestic life force emerged, followed by a huge purple gold dragon roaring out. This was the true body of the king. There was also a purple gold dragon mark between his eyebrows. He's full of energy again? Then, didn't little Qin Zi's efforts in the previous battle be in vain? The white-eyed wolf frowned. What kind of mark was it? It actually had such power. This was equivalent to having an extra life. It's not over yet. The king was more than 10,000 feet long, and the dragon scales all over his body were emitting a dazzling purple gold light. Behind him, his 3,000 incarnations also turned into purple gold dragons, and their dragon power shook the world. Boom! Accompanied by a shocking aura, the 21,000 ultimates once again appeared, tore through the chaos, and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Even though I still have a life, it's in vain. Qin Feiyang shook his head. 9,000 ultimates instantly appeared and charged toward the king like an army of thousands of men and horses. If they could defeat the king once, they could naturally defeat him a second time. But at this moment, a purple gold dragon soul also rushed out from the king's back. Battle soul? Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank. Draconic penitentiary. The king's voice was like a bell, and a huge barrier instantly fell, shrouding Qin Feiyang and his 3,000 incarnations. That's right. Grandpa still has a trump card, and that's his innate superpower. Seeing the barrier appear, Ryuko couldn't help but feel refreshed. The eyes of the divine king, Jiang Yunshuang, the human race's supremacy, also flickered. The purple gold dragon soul, draconic penitentiary, what could that be? The white-eyed wolf and the others were surprised. But in the next moment, their faces changed color. They saw that the cultivation of Qin Feiyang and his 3,000 incarnations in the draconic penitentiary had plummeted from the Great Perfection Sovereign Realm to the Great Perfection Sovereign Realm. What kind of joke was this? In a battle of this level, a sudden drop in cultivation would be fatal. The most important thing was, ordinary battle souls were almost useless when they reached the Great Perfection Sovereign Realm, but the king's battle soul could actually suppress Qin Feiyang's cultivation by one realm. That's right. That was suppression. It wasn't like the white-eyed wolf, depriving. Suppression wouldn't be lost forever. As long as the draconic penitentiary disappeared, the cultivation would immediately recover. But now, how could this draconic penitentiary disappear? On the battlefield, Qin Feiyang took a look at the barrier, then nodded in realization. So this is your trump card. As expected of the monarch, it seems that if I don't use all my means, I really won't be able to defeat you. As soon as he finished speaking, roar, accompanied by a dragon roar, the purple gold dragon soul soared into the sky. The eye of heaven instantly opened. That's right. This guy has the eye of heaven, so the battle soul can still be replicated. Frenzy patted his head. Can it really be replicated? Long Chun whispered. If even the king's draconic penitentiary could be replicated, then his god's domain must also be replicated. And the result proved. Not only could it be replicated, but it was also replicated in an instant, covering the king and his 3,000 incarnations. The king's cultivation also immediately plummeted to Great Perfection Sovereign Realm. Bastard! Ryuko clenched his fists tightly. Originally, he thought that his grandfather could rely on the draconic penitentiary to kill Qin Feiyang. He was ready to celebrate, but he didn't expect that in less than a blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang replicated the draconic penitentiary. Eye of Heaven. Is it really so heaven-defying? Is there really no opponent? In the blink of an eye, the ultimate meaning of both sides collided once again. Both of their cultivation were suppressed to great perfection's sovereign realm. The situation didn't change at all. The king looked at Qin Feiyang with an extremely complicated expression. This is the descendant of his daughter in the Sky Cloud realm? Sure enough, he is more outstanding than the descendants of their purple-gold divine dragon clan. Eye of Heaven, 3,000 incarnations, the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, the will of the heavenly Tao. These strongest means had basically fallen into the hands of this child. His rise was unstoppable. Sigh. After a long time, the king sighed and said, I lost. And he lost to a human with purple-gold dragon blood, and a junior at that. An unprecedented sense of frustration rose in his heart. Ever since he became the king, he had never experienced failure again, and he had forgotten the taste of failure. It turned out that it was so painful. The divine king and the human race supreme looked at each other, and a sense of sympathy rose in their hearts. Because they knew the king too well, losing was already a huge blow to the king, not to mention losing to a junior and a descendant of his daughter in the Sky Cloud realm. Even, this Qin Feiyang was at least the 4th-generation descendant of the Qin clan, or even the 5th-generation descendant. Otherwise, why would Qin Feiyang call the Divine Kingdom's princess ancestor? In fact, Qin Feiyang was really the 5th-generation descendant of the Qin clan. Qin Batian, Emperor Hong, Emperor Chun, and Qin Feiyang's father. These were the 4th generation. Qin Feiyang happened to be the 5th generation, and the king was the father of the Divine Kingdom's princess, so this generation had to be added. Just imagine, a descendant 5 or 6 generations away actually defeated him. Who could bear this blow? Not to mention the high and mighty king. Chapter 4022. I won. The white-eyed wolf murmured. Not bad, this kid. Even the monarch admitted defeat. It felt like a dream. The madman gritted his teeth and said, The inheritance of 15 ultimate intents is about to be in your hands. Are you excited? What are you thinking? All you think about is the inheritance. Have you thought about little Qinzi's safety? The white-eyed wolf stared at him. The madman was stunned. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said disdainfully, You're not a decent person, but you want to pretend. Do you know what this is? Pretending. Cough, cough. The white-eyed wolf coughed and smiled awkwardly. I hope there will be the laws of life and the laws of destruction in these 15 inheritances. Because with these 2 inheritances, he could activate the will of heaven. Look, your nature is immediately exposed. The madman rolled his eyes. Shut up. Suddenly, the golden small beast shouted without looking back. The madman and the white-eyed wolf were stunned. They raised their eyebrows and looked at the small beast's back. Brother Wolf, don't be impulsive. We can't beat it now. The madman said. I know. The white-eyed wolf murmured. The small beast's eyes were locked on Qin Feiyang and seemed to be looking forward to it. The madman and the white-eyed wolf also looked up. Although the king admitted defeat, the battle wasn't over. The ultimate intents continued to collide and the destructive aura spread in all directions. After a while, the previous situation appeared again. The king's ultimate intents were all shattered. Qin Feiyang still had dozens of kingdoms of life and death and hundreds of karma and destruction intents left. The remaining ultimates were like a pack of ferocious beasts as they charged towards the monarch. The king has admitted defeat. Stop. The divine king was startled and immediately shouted. Ryuko's face was also full of anxiety. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. There's no need to say anything more. The winner is king, and the loser is a bandit. The monarch waved his hand and calmly faced the incoming ultimate profound. Just as the monarch's blood was about to splatter across the sky, all of the ultimate mysteries suddenly stopped and hovered above the monarch. The little golden beast raised its eyebrows at the sight of this. Not killing? White-eyed wolf and madman were also stunned. However, on second thought, this man was the father of the princess of the Divine Kingdom and Qin Baishan's grandfather. Given Qin Feiyang's character, he would not be able to kill him. Furthermore, He had once promised the princess of the Divine Kingdom that he would show mercy to the people of the Divine Kingdom, especially the purple-gold divine dragons. Qin Feiyong was also struggling in his heart. If he didn't kill him, the monarch would definitely bring disaster to the Sky Cloud realm. This was betraying the trust that the common people had placed in him. But if he killed him, how could he face the princess and ancestors of the Divine Kingdom? One had to know. Until now, the ancestors had never seen their biological grandfather. It was really a dilemma on both sides. Sigh. Qin Feiyong sighed, looked at the monarch, and pleaded, "Promise me, don't hurt the creatures of the Sky Cloud realm anymore. In fact, we can live like a family." A family, the monarch murmured, looked up at the sky, and shook his head. "It will never be possible. This is our fate. Don't be stubborn, okay? Do you have to force me to kill you? I really don't want to do this. My ancestor, your grandson, has always been searching for his identity. If you let him know that his grandfather is still alive in this world, how happy would he be?" Qin Feiyong said angrily. "Grandson." The monarch's eyes trembled, and his expression became extremely complicated. "And your daughter, don't you want to get her forgiveness? In fact, she has always missed you. Can you put yourself in her shoes and think about it from her perspective? The grudges between the Divine Kingdom and the Sky Cloud realm can't continue to accumulate." Qin Feiyong's eyes were full of pleading. Madman and the others looked at each other, and also silently looked at the monarch. If the monarch could really change his mind, it would be a good thing for the people of the Qin clan and the entire Sky Cloud realm. War, power, interests, ambition, desire. Are these things more important than family? If I had a choice, as long as I can live a peaceful life with my family, I am willing to give up everything I have now. Because in my eyes, nothing can be compared to family, lovers, and friends. Qin Feiyong sighed deeply. For him, these were all extravagant hopes that were unattainable. But for the monarch, this was a matter of decision. Why must he insist on starting a war? War not only hurt himself, but also the family around him and those innocent creatures. Was it worth it? When the monarch heard this, there was a trace of pain on his face. Yes, was it worth it? Until now, what did he get in return? Indecisive, it's hard to achieve great things. The small beast suddenly snorted, turned around, and angrily left. Boss Frog, where are you going? Ice Dragon was stunned and hurriedly asked. It's annoying to look at, the little golden beast said without even turning its head. Then, it disappeared from everyone's sight. Ice Dragon smiled helplessly and was about to chase after it, but Long Chun pulled him back. He turned to look at Long Chun and saw Long Chin's pleading eyes. He couldn't help but soften and secretly said, "Okay, I'll stay and have a good chat with you." Long Chun was overjoyed. He raised his head and continued to look at Qin Feiyong. He could understand Qin Feiyong's feelings. For Qin Feiyong, no matter what choice he made, it was a painful thing. The small beast said he was indecisive, but in fact, he was not. Indecisiveness also depended on the person. If it were the Divine King or the human race supreme, Qin Feiyong would definitely not show mercy based on his character. But the monarch was really different. Putting aside the relationship between the Divine Kingdom's princess and Qin Batian, Qin Feiyong himself also had an inseparable kinship with the monarch. On the battlefield, there was dead silence. Everyone was waiting for the monarch's answer. After a long, long time, the monarch shook his head and sighed. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "There are many things that you and I can't choose. There is nothing that you can't choose, only whether you are willing to choose or not." Qin Feiyong said, "Then you can take it that I'm unwilling to choose." The monarch was silent for a moment, then raised his head and said, "You're challenging my limits." Qin Feiyong was furious. The various ultimate mysteries that he had stopped suddenly crashed down. Grandpa, monarch, Ryuko and the other three's faces changed color. But the monarch himself was very calm in the face of death. But at this time, an invisible will descended and blasted towards Qin Feiyong's ultimate mysteries. With a loud bang, dozens of ultimate mysteries of the law of life and death, hundreds of ultimate mysteries of the law of cause and effect, and the law of death were shattered on the spot. So ruthless at such a young age. Do you know that you are deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors? The ethereal voice sounded again. Even if I am deceiving my master and destroying my ancestors, it is still better than you not being inhumane. Qin Feiyong looked up at the sky and shouted angrily. What did you say? The ethereal voice carried a trace of hostility. I said that you are inhumane and even worse than a beast. Do you hear me clearly now? Qin Feiyong said word by word, his eyes full of anger. Without thinking, he knew that the person who really wanted to invade the sky cloud realm must be the ruler of the divine kingdom. You are courting death. The invisible will suddenly turn into a torrent and rush towards Qin Feiyong. But at this time, Ice Dragon took a step forward and raised his hand to slap the will. The will immediately collapsed and said angrily, You said that you won't intervene personally before, and now you are going back on your word? Do you really want us to kill our way to the divine kingdom? The voice was silent for a moment and said gloomily, Fine. For 10,000 years, I will not intervene. But after 10,000 years, if you and the heaven-swallowing beast come out to stop me again, then don't blame me for being impolite. After saying that, another will descended and swept up the monarch and the others before flying away like lightning. Hey, 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 where is the inheritance of the ultimate mysteries? The white-eyed wolf shouted, I will send someone to send it to you. The ethereal voice responded and did not speak again. It's finally over. Yuan Xiang let out a long breath, as if relieved of a heavy burden. Yes, the masked de jure nodded. Everything that happened today was like riding a roller coaster. If it weren't for everyone's ability to bear it, they would have had a mental breakdown. The blood ancestor said, Since it's over, then prepare to deal with the aftermath. The Feather Emperor looked at the madman and the others and said with a smile, Go and have a good rest. Leave the aftermath to us. Okay. The madman and the others nodded. This battle was indeed exhausting. Long Qin waved his hand, and the demon ancestor appeared. Thank you for your hard work. Long Chun looked at the demon ancestor. It's nothing. The demon ancestor waved his hand and looked at Qin Feiyong. He couldn't help but sigh, because at this moment, everyone had relaxed except for Qin Feiyong. He kept looking in the direction the monarch and the others left. The madman waved his hand and Fire Lotus and the mermaid princess also came out of the blood demon tower. The two immediately walked to Qin Feiyong's side and looked at Qin Feiyong's side. They found that there was a smile on Qin Feiyong's face. He is actually smiling? The two girls were speechless. Looking at Qin Feiyong standing there silently, they were almost worried to death. That was because they all thought that Qin Feiyong was angry. After all, the ruler of the divine kingdom rescued the monarch from under his nose. Feiyong, what are you smiling about? The mermaid princess was suspicious. It's nothing. I just understood something. Qin Feiyong smiled. What is it? Both of them had a curious look. Why are you two like curious babies? Qin Feiyong was speechless. With a thought, the 3,000 incarnations dissipated. He turned his head to look at Long Chun and the white-eyed wolf. No matter what, this crisis was resolved. The Sky Cloud realm could be peaceful for a while. Brother Qin, I will congratulate you later. I will also talk about some of my views on the monarch. Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled. Then, he pulled Ice Dragon and turned to leave. Long Qin also followed. Don't come. Long Chun raised his hand to stop him. Why? Long Qin suddenly had a look of dissatisfaction. Because I am your big brother. After Long Chun finished speaking, he quickly left with Ice Dragon. Looking at the backs of the two, Long Qin was so angry that he stomped his feet. Some views on the monarch? Qin Feiyong looked at Long Qin's back. His eyes flickered. Did this guy also see something? But thinking about it, it made sense. With Long Qin's observation, he would not ignore these details. At the same time, White-Eyed Wolf looked at Long Qin jokingly and asked, You are not a wild child that they picked up, are you? Wild child? Long Qin was stunned. The next moment, he reacted and said angrily, What did you say? Say it again. If you were not picked up, then why did the father and son exclude you? So pitiful. Why don't I help you find some biological parents out of kindness? White-eyed Wolf's face was full of playfulness. Bastard. Long Qin was irritable. He gritted his teeth and pounced forward. Look, look, look. With such a bad temper, how can you marry in the future? Yun Ziang Azura, are you willing to marry her? White-eyed Wolf ran and shouted. He seemed to be quite energetic. Yun Ziang and Long Qin's faces darkened. Could he not lead the trouble to them? Chapter 40:23. Since when did the two of them become so close? The Feather Emperor and the other two walked over and looked at the White-eyed Wolf and Long Qin suspiciously. Close? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Looking at the White-eyed Wolf and Long Qin, it seemed that they were a little different from before. Senior brother, what's going on? Qin Feiyong turned to look at Madman and asked. Hey. Madman grinned and looked at the angry Long Qin with puffed cheeks and said, Actually, after interacting with her for a long time, you will also find her cute side. Cute? Qin Feiyong was stunned. This was really a little strange. Even Madman had changed his view of Long Qin. On the side, the demon ancestor looked at the White-eyed Wolf and Long Qin with a trace of a smile in his eyes. It seemed that everything was developing in the best direction. Let's not talk about them first. Congratulations. You have finally comprehended the ultimate profound of the law of life and death. The blood ancestor looked at Qin Feiyong and smiled. Thank you. Qin Feiyong smiled. Kid, you are really something. After coming out of the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, you actually hid such an important thing from us. The Feather Emperor stared at Qin Feiyong unhappily. The little rabbit also looked unhappy. Didn't I intend to give you guys a surprise? Qin Feiyong smiled awkwardly. The two rolled their eyes. Qin Feiyong was silent for a moment before looking at everyone and asking, Are you guys unhappy that I didn't kill the king before? Why would we? Others don't know your situation, but don't we know? If it were us, we wouldn't be able to do it either. Madman patted Qin Feiyong's shoulder. The blood ancestor sighed and said, Actually, when you were about to kill the king, Feather Emperor was very worried. Worried? Qin Feiyong looked at Feather Emperor. Yes. After all, he is the father of my sister-in-law and my brother's father-in-law. Feather Emperor nodded. His expression was full of worry. Although it was already in the past, he would still have to face it in the future. How should he choose at that time? Qin Feiyong muttered to himself for a while. He looked at Emperor Yu and said, You don't have to worry about the monarch's matter. I will take care of it. When the time comes, I will give everyone a satisfactory explanation. All right. Feather Emperor smiled in relief. To be able to have such a descendant, he felt proud from the bottom of his heart. The blood ancestor said, Then take a rest. We'll deal with the aftermath. We'll immediately inform the entire Sky Cloud realm that you've defeated the monarch. When we know about this, the morale of the Sky Cloud realm will definitely be different. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. Suddenly, he looked at the three of them and warned, You must settle down the people of the Shun family village. Also, regarding the appearance of the ice dragon and the small beast, do not spread the news. Understood. The three of them nodded, turned around, and left quickly. After Qin Feiyong saw the three of them off, he looked at everyone present and bowed sincerely. He said gratefully, Thank you, everyone. This time, if it weren't for everyone desperately protecting him, he wouldn't have been able to wait for the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. This was all owed a favor. No need to thank me. After all, if we were in trouble, you would do the same. But now, you've reached the sky in a single bound. In the future, don't forget us, who once went through life and death with you. The masked Azura waved his hand and smiled faintly. Qin Feiyong smiled and said, If I say that I will never forget, it will be a bit pretentious, but I will remember it for the rest of my life. You're not going to thank me? At this time, Long Qin flew over while panting. Aren't you chasing the white-eyed wolf? Qin Feiyong was stunned. That bastard ran away. I can't catch up. Long Qin snorted coldly. Qin Feiyong looked at this woman. It seemed that she was really different from before. She was no longer so cold. Is it so difficult for you to say thank you? Long Qin looked at him angrily. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. What's so difficult about it? Thank you. You're not sincere at all. Long Qin snorted and looked up in the direction where Long Qian and Ice Dragon disappeared. Her eyes were full of suspicion. In the distance, it was a broken mountain range. Long Qian and Ice Dragon stood side by side. Ice Dragon glanced at Long Qian, who was silent, and said with a smile, "Just say what you want to say." Long Qian took a deep breath and turned to face Ice Dragon. She asked, "Father, I can see that when you face Mother, you don't have the gentleness of a husband and wife. What's wrong with you? Did Mother do something wrong to you?" Ice Dragon's face suddenly stiffened, and he said with a wry smile, "You're too direct. Didn't you ask me to say it directly?" Long Qian looked at him with grievance. Ice Dragon was helpless. He pondered for a while and sighed. "Your mother didn't do anything wrong to me. Then why are you so cold to her?" Long Qian was puzzled. "It's a long story. Back then, when I traveled to the ancient world, I accidentally met your mother. Perhaps you can imagine that a person like me won't easily fall in love with a woman. So when I first met your mother, I didn't take it to heart. At that time, the unlucky blood progenitor ran to the ancient world to show off his prowess. The dragon tribe was helpless against him. When I saw the situation, I decided to help the dragon tribe in the ancient world because we were all divine dragons. The blood ancestor was seriously injured and sealed by me. Since then, your mother has been following me, saying that it was to repay me. Isn't there a saying like this? Love grows with time. Then, ahem, an accident. Your mother became pregnant with you." Ice Dragon God looked a little embarrassed. Long Qian didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. His appearance was an accident? Don't think too much. The accident I'm talking about is, we're all men, you know. Ice Dragon blushed. All right. In any case, I'm the result of that accident. Long Qian said helplessly. Ha! Ice Dragon laughed dryly and continued. Then, I gave birth to your sister. To be honest, I was really happy when I saw you and your sister. I finally had a family, a pair of children, and a beautiful wife. But, at this point, Ice Dragon's face suddenly showed a trace of anger. What? Long Qin's eyelids twitched. Ice Dragon said, "One day, I discovered Yi Zhong's existence." Yi Zhong. Long Qin's heart trembled. Who in the dragons didn't know that Yi Zhong was infatuated with his mother? Could it be that his father was jealous? Don't think too much. I'm not at the point of being jealous. Ice Dragon glared at him. Then why? Long Qian was puzzled. Ice Dragon took a deep breath and sighed. This is because your mother doesn't have any feelings for me at all. The reason why she was with me was because she saw my strength and thought that I could bring benefits to the dragons. Impossible. Long Qian shook his head. Silly boy, this is the reality. Once, your mother kept Yi Zhong by her side. Do you think she felt guilty? No. She was using Yi Zhong's feelings for her to make Yi Zhong a chess piece in her hands. The Divine Dragon Palace is the best proof. Ice Dragon sighed. Long Qin looked flustered and wanted to explain. If you don't believe me, you can ask Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang is Yi Zhong's disciple. He already knew that your mother was using Yi Zhong, so he tried his best to persuade Yi Zhong to defect. Yi Zhong also came to his senses later. Otherwise, under your mother's manipulation, he would have become a sinner of the ancient world's human clan. Because the Divine Dragon Palace that he created has harmed too many humans. Ice Dragon shook his head. Long Qian was silent. Also, your mother was too ambitious, too ruthless, and selfish. I'm not slandering her. You saw what she did in the ancient world with your own eyes. Not to mention humans, even other creatures are not worth mentioning in her eyes. So, when I saw her true colors, I began to deliberately distance myself from her. Ice Dragon sighed deeply. This was a mistake he had made in the heat of the moment. Long Qin lowered his head and said, So, if it weren't for Qin and me, you wouldn't have come to visit Mother? Although it's a bit heartless, it's true. I was able to bring her to the Sky Cloud realm and give her so many divine items. It's all because of you and your sister. Now that you're also a man, you should be able to understand the feeling of being deceived by a woman. so I can't let go of this matter. If you and your sister blame me, then there's nothing I can do." Ice Dragon said. Long Chun was silent. "That's enough. This is a matter between your mother and me. It has nothing to do with you and Qin, so you don't have to worry about it." Ice Dragon smiled slightly. "You're my and Qin's biological parents. How can I not worry?" Long Chun muttered. Ice Dragon rolled his eyes and said, "If you really have the time, you might as well worry about your own matters." "What matters do I have?" Long Chun was taken aback and looked at him in puzzlement. Ice Dragon said in surprise, "You're already so old. Don't you have any thoughts?" "What thoughts?" Long Chun was more and more puzzled. "Getting married and having children. Are you going to be a bachelor for the rest of your life?" Ice Dragon was speechless. Why was this brat so stubborn? Long Chun was stunned. "Let me tell you, you have to pass on the family line for me. You really have to learn more about this from Qin Feiyong," Ice Dragon said. Ahem. Long Chun coughed a few times and said with an embarrassed smile, "Well, this matter is not urgent." "Not urgent?" Ice Dragon was speechless. He knocked Long Chun's forehead hard and scolded, "You're really a blockhead. All right, I'm leaving." "You're leaving?" Long Chun hurriedly looked at Ice Dragon. His eager eyes seemed to say, "Stay. I'll come back when you find a wife. Remember, I'm your father's example. You don't need to find a wife who is beautiful or powerful, as long as she really likes you." After saying that, Ice Dragon stepped into the air and left. Long Chun's mouth twitched and he shouted, "If mother changes, will you forgive her?" Ice Dragon stopped and pondered for a while. He said without looking back, "Wait until she changes." Then he disappeared under Long Chun's pitiful gaze. Sigh. After a while, Long Chun sighed, turned around and walked toward the Shin family village. Chapter 40-24. Above the Shun family village, Qin Feiyong and the others had almost recovered from their injuries. Because now, Qin Feiyong had grasped the ultimate meaning of the law of life. Even if you turned into a pile of meat paste, you would soon be alive and kicking. Where did the white-eyed wolf go? Why hasn't he come back yet? Madman suddenly realized that something was wrong. The white-eyed wolf had disappeared for too long. Wait. Yuan Ziying looked up into the distance and frowned. The battle between Heavenly Lord Ji and that young man seems to have disappeared. It really disappeared. After the battle ended, they were unable to suppress their joy and almost forgot about the young man. But who is he? He actually grasped the ultimate meaning of the 6 strongest laws. This is not something an ordinary person can do, and he even has 3,000 incarnations. This is too strange. Madman frowned. The identity of this young man was simply a mystery. No matter how he did it, as long as he is not our enemy. Qin Feiyong smiled. In fact, he also couldn't figure out the 3,000 incarnations. Moreover, why did he pretend to be his ancestor? Was it really just to take advantage of him? But according to his understanding of the young man, he didn't seem to be such a boring person. But what they didn't know was that somewhere in the Western continent, 3 figures stood together. It was Ice Dragon, Small Beast, and the young man. Small Beast stared at the young man angrily and asked, "Kid, what are you doing? Who told you to fight in the Sky Cloud realm? You called me here just to blame me?" The young man was stunned and couldn't help but frown. There were also serious injuries on his body. It seemed that he didn't gain any advantage in the fight with Heavenly Lord Ji. Nonsense. If anything happens to you, how will we explain it to your father? Small Beast said angrily. The young man pursed his lips and said, "Don't mention that old man. When I left, he said he didn't care about my life or death." Ice Dragon and Small Beast looked at each other helplessly. "Are you done?" "If I'm done, I'm leaving." The young man was very impatient. If Qin Feiyong and the others were to see this scene, their jaws would definitely drop from shock. How dare he act so presumptuously in front of Small Beast and Ice Dragon? This was the first person. Are you still impatient? I'm telling you, come back with us now. Don't cause trouble here. Small Beast's face darkened. Hey, are you kidding me? Am I causing trouble? If it weren't for me, Heavenly Lord Ji would have destroyed the Sky Cloud realm long ago. Besides, it wasn't easy for me to borrow an identity, and I can fight openly. This is the time for fun. I won't go back even if you beat me to death." The young man shook his head, revealing a stubborn expression. "What do you mean?" Ice Dragon and Small Beast looked at him suspiciously. "I am Chinbatian, the son of the princess of the Divine Kingdom and the human emperor. Therefore, whether it is the 3,000 incarnations or other means, the people of the Divine Kingdom will not suspect anything." The young man said with a sinister smile, "Is this why you pretended to be Chinbatian?" Ice Dragon and Small Beast looked at each other in dismay. This kid was too much of a troublemaker. Yes. Otherwise, I would be too bored to do anything. Okay, that's it. You can do whatever you want. Anyway, don't bother me. By the way, Uncle Ice Dragon, I will help you take good care of your son and daughter." After saying that, the young man turned around and ran away. Ice Dragon and Small Beast looked at each other, their faces full of helplessness. Brother is back. At this time, White-Eyed Wolf finally came back. He waved at Qin Feiyong and the others from afar. "You dare to come back?" Long Qin's eyes suddenly spat fire. "Stop it. I will be angry if you continue." White-Eyed Wolf hurriedly glared at Long Qin and said with a dark face, "Afraid of you?" Long Qin snorted. Okay, I am afraid of you. I have something important to say." White-Eyed Wolf walked to Qin Feiyong and said with a frown, "That young man is gone." "Gone?" Qin Feiyong and the others were stunned. "Yes. Just now, I went to look for him, but when I rushed to the battlefield, he and Heavenly Lord Ji were gone." White-Eyed Wolf said, "Heavenly Lord Ji must have left with the monarch and the others." As for this young man, Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said with a smile, "Anyway, he is still in the Sky Cloud realm. We will meet him sooner or later. Actually, I want to find him to join us. Now that you have comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, even the monarch is no match for you. Now, we have completely changed from passive to active and transferred the battlefield to the Divine Kingdom. But the strength of the Divine Kingdom is unfathomable. Although you can defeat the monarch, you may not be able to stop those old antiques of the Divine Kingdom. So, to be safe, we have to drag this young man with us." White-Eyed Wolf smiled slyly, "But I have also invited him, but he has not replied to my message. I guess there is no hope." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "What are you talking about?" All of them looked so miserable. Accompanied by a faint laugh, Long Chun stepped on the air and came over. Everyone looked up and saw that only Long Chun came back. Long Qin immediately flew over and asked, "Where is father?" "He left." Long Chun smiled. "He left just like that?" Long Qin's face suddenly turned pale and said, "Brother, did you really pick me up?" "Huh." Long Chun was stunned and puzzled. "Why do you say that? Otherwise, why didn't father tell me when he left?" "I think, as that bastard White-Eyed Wolf said, I am just a wild girl that you picked up." Long Qin lowered her head, looking wronged. Long Chun raised his eyebrows slightly, looked up at White-Eyed Wolf, and said angrily, "What nonsense are you talking about?" "Just kidding." White-Eyed Wolf smiled embarrassedly. Long Chun rolled his eyes, rubbed Long Qin's head, and said with a smile, "Don't think so much. Hasn't father always been like this? If you don't believe me, I will accompany you to find father and do a blood test." "What do you mean? A blood test? Don't make it sound like I was picked up." Long Qin was dissatisfied. Yes. Long Chun nodded and did not forget to glare at White-Eyed Wolf. "It's my fault. White-Eyed Wolf smiled apologetically. He did not expect that a casual joke would make Long Qin take it so seriously. After calming Long Qin down, Long Chun looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, "Congratulations. You're doing the same?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. Long Chun shook his head, smiled, and asked, "The Divine Kingdom hasn't sent the inheritance yet?" "No. Do you think they will go back on their word?" Li Zhongxing frowned. "I don't think so." Xiao Shui hesitated and said, "It will be embarrassing for the ruler of the Divine Kingdom to go back on their word. That depends on whether they are afraid of being embarrassed or not. If they are not afraid, we can only watch." Old Poison could not help but say, "Don't worry about them." Long Chen waved his hand, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Did Emperor Yu and the others go to deal with the aftermath?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then send a message to them and tell them not to spread the news about Father and the others. Because Father and the others do not want to attract too much attention," Long Chen said. "Don't worry. I have already told them about this." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Told them?" Long Chen was taken aback, nodded, and said with a smile, "All right then. Since you have worked so hard for so long, why don't we sit down and chat while drinking tea?" "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, a group of people immediately appeared in the Devil's Land. "Young Master, Master." The people gathered in the Devil's Land immediately swarmed over. "I'm sorry to have made you worry." Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and smiled apologetically. "You have been so good to us. It is only right for us to be worried," Pai Lupi said with an annoyed smile. Qin Feiyang laughed, looked at Pei Dason and Pei Hongyu, and said with a smile, "The two of you can return to Zhongzhou in the future. The affairs of the Black Tortoise world will continue to be handed over to Pai Lupi and Theta Wang." "Huh." The brother and sister's faces turned pale. "Don't misunderstand. I don't have any prejudice against you now. It's not that I don't trust you. I asked you to return to Zhongzhou because you have family. Go back and accompany your family. At the same time, you can calm down and cultivate well." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. But the brother and sister were still a little flustered. "We are doing this for your own good. You have seen the strength of the divine kingdom with your own eyes. If you don't cultivate hard and make yourself stronger, you won't even be qualified to be cannon fodder in the future." Madman raised his eyebrows. "Yes." The brother and sister shrank their necks and hurriedly nodded. In fact, they had seen Qin Feiyang's attitude towards them now, and they no longer had the disgust they had in the past. And in these years, they had indeed changed a lot. However, it was also because they had been in the Devil's Land all year round and managed the affairs of the Black Tortoise world that they had gradually become accustomed to this kind of life. Suddenly letting them leave, they were still a little uncomfortable in their hearts. Qin Feiyang looked at the brother and sister, and then looked at the 6,000 secret guards and said, "Not only them, you also have to cultivate desperately for me." Back then, I organized a group of secret guards so that at the critical moment, you can step forward bravely and save the world. Such a big responsibility. Someone smiled bitterly. In the past, they had never thought of such a problem. This was because in the past, saving lives was simply a joke to them. In short, they were just a group of lowly ants. Why should they care about them? But now, after following Qin Feiyang for so many years, they had learned what it meant to be responsible and responsible. It is precisely because of this great responsibility that I have spared no effort to cultivate you all these years. The door of potential, the epitome of law, these resources, I would rather not have them myself and give them to you all first. So I hope that you all will not disappoint my expectations, and even more so, not let outsiders think that I, Qin Feiyang, have raised a group of trash. Tell me, can you all do it?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes." The 6,000 secret guards roared, their voices like a bell, resounding in all directions. Qin Feiyang nodded in satisfaction and said with a smile, "Good, I look forward to your rise. In the future, when comprehending the profound meaning of law, if you encounter difficulties or bottlenecks, don't feel embarrassed. Find whoever you can. Face is not something that can be eaten." "Yes." Everyone bowed in response. "All right then, all of you are dismissed." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Hearing this, everyone immediately turned around and flew toward the courtyard not far away. As the number of people continued to increase, the courtyard here was almost a town. "Senior Sword Emperor." Qin Feiyang called out to Sword Emperor and the group of elders. "What's the matter?" Everyone turned around and looked at him in confusion. Chapter 4025. Qin Feiyang walked over and whispered, "Don't take what I said just now to heart. I wasn't talking to you." The Sword Emperor and the others were stunned. "I was afraid that you would think too much, so I specially explained it." Qin Feiyang scratched his head. Although he was very strong now and was the #1 person in the sky cloud realm, in front of these old people, he would always be a child. Hearing this, the Sword Emperor and the others couldn't help but laugh. The Mermaid Emperor said discontentedly, "You brat, I didn't want to scold you, but you just had to ask for it. Are we such petty people?" Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded again and again. He naturally didn't dare to neglect the Mermaid Emperor. After all, he was the ancestor of the Mermaid Princess. Enough. We know that. No matter how hard we old guys work, we can't catch up to these shadow guards. The Blackwing Emperor waved his hand. That's not what I meant. You really misunderstood. From the beginning, I brought you to the Black Tortoise realm to let you live a comfortable life. I never thought of letting you take action and worry about mundane matters. Qin Feiyang hurriedly explained. The Mermaid Emperor and the others looked at each other and sighed. See, you all dislike us for coming. You all. Qin Feiyang was a little at a loss. Haha. All of a sudden, they burst into laughter. The Mermaid Emperor shook his head and said, I'm just teasing you. Don't worry, we won't join in the fun. But it's really boring to stay in the Devil's Land all day. Indeed. The Blackwing Emperor nodded. The Black Tortoise realm is so big. You all can go out and walk around. Qin Feiyang said. How many years have we been in the Black Tortoise realm? Which place haven't you been to? We've been everywhere. The White Wing Emperor also shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, Then I can't help it. I can't let you go to the Sky Cloud realm, right? I'm worried. There's a way. The Mermaid Emperor chuckled and gave the Black Wing Emperor and the others a look. They all nodded with a smile. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but have an ominous premonition. He asked cautiously, What is it? It's simple. The Mermaid Emperor glanced at the Mermaid Princess behind him and laughed hoarsely. You two should hurry up and have a few children. Then we old men will be very busy. It was indeed a trap. Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. The Mermaid Princess, who was standing behind him, also blushed. Good luck. The Mermaid Emperor patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and looked at Long Chun, the crazy one, and the others with a smile. He said, The same goes for all of you. Young people, don't be so restrained. Indulge when it's time to do so. Otherwise, where will the incense come from? Long Chun and the others were also stunned. Zhuo Shaoxian and Huo Wu, who were standing beside the crazy one and the white-eyed wolf, had their cheeks as red as apples. Even Long Qin lowered his head shyly. All right, I won't disturb you. The Mermaid Emperor waved his hand and left with the Sword Emperor and the others with a smile. Ahem. The white-eyed wolf coughed and hugged Huo Wu. He laughed and said, Sister Feng, since the old man said so, shall we go and indulge ourselves? What did you say? Huo Wu immediately twisted the white-eyed wolf's ear and said angrily, Last time at the Skybell Divine Treasury, you said those nonsense to Qin Feiyang and the crazy one. I haven't settled the score with you yet. Wife, please spare me. I was wrong. The white-eyed wolf immediately wailed. Were you wrong? Huo Wu leaned over to the white-eyed wolf's ear and whispered, I see that you are quite intimate with Long Qin outside. Do you want to take in another concubine? That's a good idea. The white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up. Are you okay? Huo Wu's face darkened. She pulled the white-eyed wolf's ear hard and almost pulled it off. No. It's about to be pulled off. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The miserable howl sounded like a pig being slaughtered. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and the others for help. However, the group of people were gloating as they flew towards the tea garden. You have no loyalty. The white-eyed wolf cursed angrily. He thought to himself, This jealous woman is really scary. Huo Wu let go of her hand, looked at the white-eyed wolf, and asked, Tell me honestly, are you interested in Long Qin? The white-eyed wolf rubbed his ear. Why did she suddenly become so calm? No, this was the calm before the storm. Huo Wu sighed and said, Actually, as long as you don't hide it from me, I won't object. After all, it will be easier for me to take care of you. Really? The white-eyed wolf asked. Do you really have such thoughts? She turned hostile immediately and pulled the white-eyed wolf's ear again. Her face was full of anger. I'm devoted to you, you bastard. But you still want to take in a concubine? In the tea garden, Qin Feiyang and the others sat around the table. A pot of ancient dragon god tea filled the tea garden with the fragrance of tea. Listening to the white-eyed wolf's miserable howl, Long Chun shook his head and sighed. Who would have thought that the arrogant golden-winged wolf king outside would become a kitten when he came to the black tortoise world? No, no, no. He's not a kitten, he's a little lamb. A lamb waiting to be slaughtered. The madman grinned and took out a jar of unparalleled divine brew. While listening to the white-eyed wolf's miserable howl, he drank happily. My girl is the best. She just sat there quietly, obedient and sensible. Don't drink so much. Zhuo Xiaoxian, who was standing beside him, glared at him. The madman's expression froze. He hurriedly said to himself, so many people are watching. Leave me some face. When we get home later, you can do whatever you want of me. Who wants to do anything to you? Zhuo Xiaoxian secretly rolled her eyes. Look, my Miss Xiaoxian is still the gentle, virtuous, and considerate one. The madman grabbed Zhuo Xiaoxian's hand, his face full of pride. Zhuo Xiaoxian blushed. Ahem. Care about the feelings of us single dogs. The masked de Jura coughed and lowered his head to drink his tea. I just want to torture you single dogs. How about it? Go ahead and be envious. The madman laughed loudly. He was really arrogant. The masked de Jura's mouth twitched. He didn't say anything else. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. At the same time, the demon ancestor glanced at the group of people while drinking his tea. He seemed to be hesitating about something. Qin Feiyang put down his teacup and grabbed the mermaid princess's hand. He looked at Long Chun, who was sitting opposite him, and asked, Brother Long, not long ago, you said that you want to talk about your opinion of the king. What do you mean by that? As soon as he said that, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. Long Chun looked at the others, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a faint smile, Don't tell me you don't have an opinion. Tell me your opinion first. Qin Feiyang smiled. Okay. Long Chun nodded. Wait. But suddenly, the demon ancestor spoke. He put down the teacup in his hand and said with a smile, Let's talk about something else first. Just at this time, the white-eyed wolf walked over with Fire Dance. Fire Dance, who was incomparably valiant before, was now gentle and kind. She hugged the white-eyed wolf's arm and walked leisurely. The white-eyed wolf's appearance was extremely miserable, especially his ear. It was almost deformed. Brother, you really don't have any loyalty. Walking into the tea garden, the white-eyed wolf glared at everyone fiercely. Then, he took out a jar of unparalleled divine brew. Let's not drink today. Look, everyone is drinking tea. It's not good for you to drink. Fire Dance smiled gently. The white-eyed wolf stared and immediately pointed at the madman. Isn't he drinking too? Before he finished, Fire Dance's eyes flashed coldly. The white-eyed wolf was immediately stunned and said with a flattering smile, Okay, I won't drink. Drinking tea is good for health. Little Qin Zi, quickly pour the tea. He flattered Fire Dance with a smile, but when it came to Qin Feiyang, he immediately became fierce. I didn't provoke you? Qin Feiyang was speechless. He poured a cup of tea for the white-eyed wolf. Letting this wolf cub drink tea was really too difficult for him. However, what no one noticed was that Long Qin was hiding a sound transmission god stone in his hand. There was also a hint of ridicule in his eyes. Qin Feiyang handed the teacup to the white-eyed wolf, then looked at the demon ancestor and smiled. What do you want to say? It's about Long Chun bribing Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. The demon ancestor said. Long Chin's pupils immediately shrank. The white-eyed wolf and Frenzy couldn't help but raise their eyebrows and stare at the demon ancestor angrily. Bribing Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing? Qin Feiyang was stunned. What was going on? Mermaid Princess, Fire Dance, Zhuo Xiaoxian, Yun Ziang, Master de Jura, Li Feng, Li Zhongsheng, and Long Qin were also suspicious. Don't stare at me like that. The demon ancestor helplessly looked at Frenzy and the white-eyed wolf and smiled. If there wasn't today's battle, I definitely wouldn't have brought up this matter in front of Long Chan. Then what do you mean now? If you say it like that, how can we set a trap for him in the future? The white-eyed wolf was very angry. He had always been brooding over this matter, and he had been waiting for Qin Feiyang to come out of seclusion to plan a trap for Long Chen. In any case, he wanted Long Chen to suffer a double loss after trying to trick him. But now, since the demon ancestor had brought it up in front of them, there was no way to target him anymore. Like I said before, if there wasn't today's incident, I wouldn't stop you from setting a trap for him. But today, in order to protect Qin Feiyang, whether it was Long Chen or Long Qin, they risked their lives. They didn't even flinch in the face of death several times. And Frenzy, have you forgotten? When you were facing Heavenly Lord Ji, you personally said that all the grudges in the past would be written off. And you also said that you would fight side by side in the next life. And White-Eyed Wolf, you also shouted very loudly at that time. The demon ancestor smiled. Frenzy and the White-Eyed Wolf's expressions froze. They really did say that. Personally, I think that although there is indeed an irreconcilable grudge between the two of you, since both of you can say such things in front of Heavenly Lord Ji, it proves that you don't hate each other in your hearts. So what I want to say is that since we have already started this, why don't we take advantage of this moment to completely end it once and for all? So that we don't have to constantly be on guard against you scheming against me and me scheming against you all the time in the future. How tiring would that be? The demon ancestor sighed. Only by completely resolving these grudges could everyone truly work together to deal with the divine kingdom. Chapter 40-26. Madman and White-Eyed Wolf became silent after hearing this. Although they didn't like Long Chen and his sister, the effort they had put in this time was obvious to all. What's going on? Can you tell us first? Qin Feiyang looked at them. It seemed to be quite serious. White-Eyed Wolf glanced at Long Chen and said, Little Chen, do you want to tell us yourself, or do you want us to help you? Can you not call me that? It's too awkward to hear. Long Chen smiled bitterly, put down his teacup and sighed. I really underestimated Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. I thought they would be tempted, but I didn't expect them to tell you guys in a blink of an eye. You didn't underestimate them. They were indeed tempted. Mu Qing even wanted to scheme against Dong Zhengyang. Madman harumphed coldly. Then how did you guys find out? Long Chen looked at them suspiciously. Devil ancestor. After meeting you, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing came back. The devil ancestor had already found out something was wrong. Madman explained the situation briefly for Qin Feiyang to hear. So that's how it is. Long Chen nodded and looked at the devil ancestor with admiration. No wonder you're the one who once forced Qin Feiyang into a desperate situation. What happened in the past is a sin. The devil ancestor shook his head. Whenever he thought of the sins he committed in Great Qin, he couldn't help but feel remorseful. That's why he was working hard to resolve the grudges between them, because he knew this kind of hatred the best. If he didn't resolve the grudges between them now, this hatred would only grow deeper in the future. It might even evolve into the current situation between the Sky Cloud Boundary and the Divine Kingdom. At that time, the Sky Cloud Boundary would be in even more danger. Qin Feiyang finally understood that Long Chen was preparing for a rainy day. This move was really ingenious. Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang both possessed the strongest fighting soul. Once he convinced the two of them to cooperate with Long Chen, he could really deal a fatal blow to them from behind. Qin Feiyang asked, Where are Mu Qing and the others now? Inside the Blood Demon Tower, Madman said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Call them out. Madman waved his hand and 3 figures appeared. They were Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and Dong Zhengyang. Brother Qin, congratulations. Dong Zhengyang cupped his hands and said, The gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Mu Tianyang also shook his head and sighed. Qin Feiyang laughed involuntarily and said, It will be the same after your fighting souls have evolved. Easier said than done. The two of them sighed and sat on the empty seats next to him. However, Mu Qing stood at the side with an extremely panicked look. Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qing and turned to look at Madman. He asked suspiciously, Where are Old Pei and the others? They have been on the battlefield. As for now, they should have left the land of buried gods. They might be in the demonic palace in the eastern continent, because we have been cultivating in seclusion in the demonic palace all these years. Madman said. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Mu Qing with a smile. Have you really not felt how I have treated you all these years? Mu Qing lowered her head and was so ashamed that she could not show her face. The door of potential is open for you. The nomological miniatures are all yours. I even let you go with me when I go to Big Brother's place to cultivate in seclusion. I think I have done well enough, but why can't I move you? If I remember correctly, we have known each other longer than Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor. Back then, when your sister died in the hands of Zhuge Mingyang, I was a little sad. Moreover, we are about the same age. I always thought that you would be more reasonable than Mu Tianyang, but now, your actions are not even 1/10 of Mu Tianyang's. At least Mu Tianyang still remembers Dong Xingyang saving his life, but you have completely forgotten about it. If Dong Xingyang didn't save you back then, would you still be alive? Qin Feiyang's face was filled with disappointment. Hearing these words, Mu Qing clenched her fists and nodded. Yes, I was wrong in this matter, but didn't I already swear a blood oath? What else do you want? If you do something wrong, you naturally have to bear the corresponding consequences. How about this? I'll invite you to stay in Soul Sealing Valley for a while. Qin Feiyang smiled. Soul Sealing Valley. Just hearing this name was enough to make people shudder. Not to mention staying there for a while. It was simply torture. Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled. Thank you for making the trip and bringing her there. What's so hard about it? I'm happy to help. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth and stood up to look at Mu Qing. Let's go. I'll take you to enjoy life. Qin Feiyang, you can't do this to me. Even Dong Zhengyang himself has chosen to forgive me. What right do you have to hold on to it? Mu Qing hurriedly ran behind Mu Tianyang to seek protection and shouted, because I have a better conscience than you. I've always believed in one truth. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Moreover, by doing this, you've offended not only Dong Xingyang, but also our trust in you. Qin Feiyang's eyes were cold. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, if he doesn't cooperate, you know what to do. The white-eyed wolf laughed again and again. Was there a need to say it? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing again and said with a faint smile, don't worry, you're going there to reflect on your mistakes. It won't torment you for too long. After 3 years, you can come out of Soul Sealing Valley. After saying that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The white-eyed wolf picked up Mu Qing and rushed towards Soul Sealing Valley. No, ancestor, save me. I don't want to go to Soul Sealing Valley, Mu Qing wailed. Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. I'm doing this for his own good. If you continue to be so lenient with him, sooner or later, he will get into big trouble. At that time, I'm afraid we don't even need to do anything. Others will kill him. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang and said in a deep voice, that's right. This is like educating a child. If you can't bear to punish him now, society will help you educate him in the future. When that time comes, the beating he will face will not be so simple. The madman grinned. Sigh. Mu Tianyang sighed and fell silent. 3 years is very fast. In the outside world, it's just a blink of an eye. The demon ancestor smiled at Mu Tianyang, then looked at Qin Feiyang and Long Chun and said, now, let's solve your problem. Long Chun drank his tea and remained silent. Qin Feiyang also picked up his teacup. As he drank, he smiled and said, Brother Long, do you want me to express my opinion first? After all, I'm in the wrong this time. Long Chun shook his head. Thinking about it now, his behavior this time was indeed a bit stupid. However, he really didn't expect to be discovered by the demon ancestor. It seemed that the demon ancestor was the one he should fight for the most. However, it was almost impossible to fight for the demon ancestor, because after that battle, the demon ancestor had already repented. In short, the once heinous demon ancestor had disappeared. The demon ancestor sitting in front of them now was filled with justice and benevolence. He would never bow to anyone for the inheritance of the ultimate profound. Since you said so, then I'll talk about my inner thoughts first. Qin Feiyang let out a breath and said with a smile, I didn't have a good impression of your mother and sister in the past, but for you, Long Chun, I have only admiration and appreciation. Don't forget, I, the person you hate, am risking my life to protect you this time. Long Qin snorted coldly. I know. That's why I said in the past. Now, I have gratitude and appreciation for you in my heart. Qin Feiyang smiled. I don't need your appreciation. Long Qin had a look of disdain. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly, looked at Long Chun and continued, Let's talk about the grudges between us. Back then, it was your mother who attacked my ancestor first. She wanted to snatch my ancestor's bloodline power and let you fuse with it. Later, she attacked me for the same purpose. I know that. Actually, I don't need it at all. Long Chun nodded. You really don't need it, but your mother doesn't think so. This is the fuse between us. In fact, whether it's me or my ancestor, we only hope for the world to be peaceful and all things to coexist. Therefore, my ancestor created the Dragon Slayer Palace to fight against you dragons. Later, because of me and senior brother Feng Zi's participation, as well as the support of the billions of creatures in the ancient world, we won the war. At the same time, other than you and your mother, the dragons were all wiped out. To be honest, when the war ended back then, I had already let go of this hatred in my heart. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Are you sure you've let go? Long Qin frowned. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned, then smiled and said, Of course, the matter between me and your father definitely won't end like this, but this is a grudge between me and him. It has nothing to do with you. But we're his children, Long Qin said. I know, but isn't there a saying that goes like this? Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Qin Feiyang smiled. Long Qin snorted coldly and said, Don't look so magnanimous. You can let go, but we can't. After all, this is the hatred of the extermination of our clan. But have you ever thought about how many innocent living beings were slaughtered by your dragon clan when you ruled the ancient world? For example, Fire Lotus. Back then, she died in the hands of your ancestral dragons. If I hadn't met her, I'm afraid she would still be wandering the land of the dead. Qin Feiyang sighed. Fire Lotus also clenched her hands, but she soon loosened them, because on the day of the extermination of the dragons, she had already let go of the hatred in her heart. Long Qin was speechless. As for coming to the Sky Cloud realm, the Dragon God Sword and the Sacred Ice Sword attacked me. This was all instructed by your father. It has nothing to do with you. Of course, it may have something to do with your mother. But now, it's no longer important. After all, you have sacrificed so much for the Sky Cloud realm and even risked your lives to protect me. Even if I want to kill her, I have to consider your face, right? As for the dragons of the Sky Cloud realm, back then, I said that whether it's the dragons, the Feng people, or the Kirin clan, once Long Zun and the other two die, the past grudges will be written off. So now, except for Ice Dragon and Small Beast, I have no hatred for anyone. This is what I think in my heart. The truest thought. Qin Feiyang smiled. Chapter 4027. After saying that, Qin Feiyang calmly drank his tea. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang's face. It was very sincere, without any trace of lying. But thinking about it, it made sense. The dragons of the ancient world had already paid the price for their sins. There was indeed no need to hate them. Moreover, Long Qin's contribution to the Sky Cloud realm was enough to make up for everything. Demon Ancestor smiled and said, Qin Feiyang has already said his thoughts. Long Qin, you should also express your position. The cycle of cause and effect is all retribution. Everything in the ancient world was caused by the brutality of the dragons. The creatures of the ancient world can't tolerate us dragons. It's reasonable for them to rise up and resist. As far as I'm concerned, the dragons of the ancient world will go to the point of extinction. It's all our fault. So, regarding this matter, I have never blamed anyone. I believe that all of you can see this, but, speaking of this, Long Chun couldn't help but look at Long Qin. In his mind, Long Zun's figure appeared. I can understand. You also have no choice. But for your mother and sister, this matter can only be explained by you. It's useless for us to say more. Instead, it will cause their disgust and make the situation even more chaotic. Demon Ancestor said, Thank you. Long Chun smiled gratefully. However, today we sit down to talk about these things, not to see your mother and sister's attitude, but mainly to see your attitude. What is your attitude? Now that everyone is already comrades who have gone through life and death together, you might as well say it directly. Demon Ancestor smiled. My attitude, it's naturally best if we can get along peacefully. Actually, when we were in the ancient world, I wanted to make friends with Qin Feiyong, Lunatic, and White-Eyed Wolf, because I feel that fighting with them is very reliable. However, what I admire most about them is their sense of brotherhood, never abandoning their companions, and caring for the common people. Long Chun smiled slightly. Isn't this the same as what we thought? If it weren't for our different standpoints, we would have become friends in the ancient world. Senior brother, don't you think so? Qin Feiyong looked at Lunatic and smiled. Yes. Lunatic responded weakly. He had indeed let go of the previous grudges, but this time, Long Chun plotted against them behind their backs, which made it difficult for him to let go. There's nothing to be calculative about. Although he schemed against us behind our backs, he also risked his life to help us. Let's call it even. Qin Feiyong. The madman frowned and suddenly stared at the demon ancestor as he said unhappily, You really are a good person now. If you were in Great Qin, would you be like this and have such conflict with old Qin? Cough, cough. It's all in the past. Can we not mention it? All right. If you can defeat me, we will write off this debt. Sure. If you can defeat me, I will kneel down and apologize to you in front of everyone on behalf of my mother. Long Qin also stood up with a swoosh and stared at Li Feng. It's a deal? Li Feng asked. It's a deal, Long Qin said. Li Feng took a deep breath, turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Big brother Qin, I don't want to make things difficult for you, so I want to use my own method to solve this matter. I ask for your support. Qin Feiyong looked at Li Feng, looked at Long Chun and asked, What do you think? Sure. Long Chun nodded. Since he wanted to solve it, then he might as well solve it completely, lest he drag it out and cause more trouble. If that's the case, Qin Feiyong looked at Long Qin and Li Feng, took a deep breath, stood up and said, Then I'll fulfill your wish, but you are no longer children, so you have to keep your word. Finished. He turned to look at Li Zhongxing and the other two and said with a smile, You guys go and recuperate first. All right. The three of them nodded. Immediately, Qin Feiyong waved his hand, except for Li Zhongxing and the other two. Everyone present immediately appeared outside. Outside, the fluctuations from the previous battle had not dissipated. Not to mention this short period of time, even if it was 100 or 80 years, this land would not be able to recover its vitality, because the damage was too serious. Unless there was enough life energy. Long Qin took a step out and landed 1,000 miles away. He turned to look at Li Feng and said, This battle, regardless of life and death, hearsay. Li Feng smiled and also took a step out, landing in front of Long Qin and said, Fight to the death. Afraid of you? Long Qin laughed coldly. The ultimate meaning of the three strongest laws was instantly activated, and the aura of destruction surged in all directions like a tide. At the same time, Li Feng also began to use his puppet reel body. The three puppet reel bodies were like three merciless death gods. Boom. The ultimate meaning of the space-time law was activated, and 4 galaxies fell from the sky, exuding the power to destroy the world. You're using your trump card? The demon ancestor frowned. Otherwise, do you think this is a game, a joke? Madman sneered. He had absolute confidence in Li Feng. Although Li Feng only mastered 1 ultimate meaning of the strongest law, and Long Qin mastered 3, Li Feng had the puppet reel bodies. 3 puppet reel bodies, plus himself, meant that Long Qin was now facing 4 Li Fengs. 3 ultimate meanings of the strongest laws were not enough. Boom. Sure enough, accompanied by a loud noise, Long Qin's 3 ultimate meanings of the strongest laws were mercilessly crushed on the spot. Puff. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and his face was slightly pale. It seemed that Li Feng had the upper hand, but Qin Feiyang inadvertently discovered that Long Qin's face at this moment did not have the slightest bit of worry for Long Qin. Could it be? What other tricks did Long Qin have up his sleeve? If that was the case, this method must be able to threaten Li Feng, otherwise Long Qin would not be so calm. However, since Long Qin still had tricks up his sleeve, why didn't he see him use it when facing Heavenly Lord Ji and the monarch? On the battlefield, you dare to compete with me with that little bit of strength of yours? Li Feng's expression was extremely ferocious, and the remaining ultimate meaning of the space-time law flooded the sky, crazily attacking Long Qin. He did not show any mercy at all. His eyes were full of murderous intent. Who are you looking down on? Long Qin laughed angrily. A wave of space-time power rolled out. A river of stars descended from the sky, slamming into the river of stars that Li Feng had summoned. 2 ultimate profound meanings were shattered in response. Li Feng was also forced to retreat, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. This madman was stunned. If he remembered correctly, the strongest laws that Long Qin mastered seemed to be the time array, the death law, and the karma law. How could there be another ultimate meaning of the space-time law? Most importantly, he had never seen Long Qin open it before. As expected, Qin Feiyang murmured and turned to Long Qin. It seems that your sister has integrated another ultimate meaning in these years. Long Qin smiled but did not say anything. Hearing this, the demon ancestor and the others looked at each other and could not help but smile bitterly. It was indeed different to have a powerful father. Inheritances were easy to obtain. If it wasn't for the ice dragon, Long Qin probably wouldn't have been able to comprehend the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law, let alone 4 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. What was the saying again? It was true that comparisons were odious. Zhuo Shaoxian was confused. If she has integrated another ultimate meaning, why didn't she activate it when facing Heavenly Lord Ji and the monarch? Silly girl. Madman grabbed Zhuo Shaoxian's hand and explained, how powerful are Heavenly Lord Ji and the monarch? Even if she activates the ultimate meaning of the space-time law, what's the use? That's right. Even if she has mastered 6 ultimate meanings of the strongest laws and integrated them with the will of heaven, she can't defeat Heavenly Lord Ji and the monarch, let alone 4 ultimate meanings of the strongest laws. After all, both of them have 3,000 incarnations. Long Qin nodded and sighed. Thinking of the 3,000 incarnations, he could not help but feel tired. Chapter 4028. On the battlefield, Li Feng stabilized his body and raised his head to look at Long Qin. I really didn't expect you to have hidden an ultimate meaning. There are still many things you didn't expect. Long Qin sneered. The ultimate meaning of the 4 strongest laws appeared out of thin air. So what if you have more ultimate meanings? Is this something you comprehended by yourself? Isn't it all because of your father? Otherwise, what are you? Li Feng's face was full of ridicule. So what if it is? At least, I have a father to rely on. But do you have one? Long Qin retorted. This sentence undoubtedly ignited the anger in Li Feng's heart. Carrying a monstrous aura, he charged forward. I have touched your sore spot, right? Orphan. Long Qin sneered. Damn woman, I will kill you. Li Feng roared. Who taught you to be so arrogant when you're an orphan? Long Qin wasn't afraid at all. Boom. Both of them clashed. Terrifying fluctuations spread in all directions. This is bad. Qin Feiyang whispered. What's wrong? Madman looked at him, puzzled. Even if Long Qin grasped the ultimate meaning of the 4 strongest laws, he shouldn't be Li Feng's opponent. After all, Li Feng still had the ultimate meaning of the slaughter law. Can't you see that Long Qin is deliberately provoking him? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. You mean, Long Qin also knows that Li Feng has the ultimate meaning of the slaughter law, so he used this method to anger Li Feng and make him lose his mind? Madman was bewildered. Yes. Once Li Feng loses his mind, I'm afraid he will forget about the fact that he grasps the ultimate meaning of the slaughter law. In the face of such a battle, Longqin can still maintain a calm mind and target Li Feng's weakness. We really can't underestimate him, Qin Feiyang mumbled. Then, do we need to remind Li Feng?
Madman asked.
This is their battle. It's best if we don't intervene. Moreover, for Li Feng, this is also a rare tempering. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and then silently watched the battlefield. The battle had reached its climax. Longqin kept provoking Li Feng with words. Li Feng had completely lost his mind and had not activated the ultimate meaning of the law of slaughter. Think about it. What would happen if a person who had lost his rationality fought with a person who was calm and collected? There was no suspense. Those who had lost their rationality would gradually be at a disadvantage. Just like this, Li Feng was gradually suppressed by Longqin. Even with the help of the 3 true body puppets, it was useless. Wounds kept appearing on his body, making him look extremely miserable. Bang! After several hundred rounds, Longqin seized the opportunity and slapped Li Feng's chest with his palm. Li Feng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body flew out like a meteor, dyeing the sky red with his blood. I can't beat her? What's going on? I seem to have forgotten something. But what exactly is it? Calm down, you must calm down. Qin Dage has taught me more than once that the stronger the enemy, the more important it is to maintain a calm mind. Li Feng mumbled, shaking his head. Boom. At the same time, Longqin did not give Li Feng the slightest chance to counterattack. For ultimate mysteries were activated, releasing monstrous divine power, and charged toward Li Feng at lightning speed. That's right. I still have the ultimate mystery of the law of slaughter. As the crisis of death shrouded him, Li Feng suddenly quivered and finally thought of the law of slaughter. Go to hell. Immediately, he roared, and the 2 ultimate mysteries of the law of space and time and the law of slaughter instantly appeared. At the same time, the 3 true body puppets had also activated 2 ultimate mysteries. In total, there were 8 ultimate mysteries. Rumble. The aura of the 8 ultimate mysteries surged, destroying everything in all directions. Accompanied by a loud explosion that shook heaven and earth, Longqin's 4 ultimate law ultimate mysteries and Li Feng's 4 ultimate law ultimate mysteries were destroyed in the void. Immediately after, Li Feng and the true body puppets' 4 ultimate mysteries of the law of slaughter transformed into a blood sword, rolling up monstrous waves of blood and madly charged toward Longqin. I didn't expect that I would be able to wake up at the critical moment. Longqin was infuriated. A terrifying sovereign aura spread out from his body. Angel's sword. Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. Although the Angel's sword had been shattered in the collision with Heavenly Lord Ji and the Monarch, it was still a mid-level sovereign weapon. Even if it was heavily damaged, it could still unleash a destructive divine power. Brother Longqin, this is not fair. Shui Shaoxian looked at Longqin and said, To this, Longqin just smiled. You really are an idiot. Frenzy looked at Shui Shaoxian helplessly. This little girl was really too naive. He really dared to let her go out alone in the future. Otherwise, if she was sold, she would have to help count the money. What kind of battle was this? It was a battle of life and death. It was not a spar, nor was it a joke. Everything depended on one's means. Therefore, there was no such thing as fair or unfair. There was only victory and defeat. Clang! The heavenly god sword attacked. Although it was heavily injured, its divine power was still hard to block. The ultimate profundities of the 4 ordinary laws were annihilated in an instant. Following that terrifying sharpness, they surged towards Li Feng in an overwhelming manner. Li Feng's expression changed drastically and he quickly dodged. But the Angel's sword was not an ordinary weapon. It was a sovereign weapon and had its own consciousness. Seeing Li Feng dodge, it did not chase after him. Instead, it directly slashed at the 3 puppets. The 3 puppets were annihilated. At this moment, the Angel's sword attacked Li Feng. Longqin also attacked furiously. Li Feng did not give up. 2 ultimate profound appeared and blasted at the Angel's sword. With a loud bang, The angel's sword was sent flying and its light dimmed. Obviously, the current angel's sword could only unleash the power of one ultimate law. In other words, its current power was about the same as a low-level sovereign weapon. It could be seen how serious the damage was when it fought with Heavenly Lord Ji and the monarch. However, although the Heavenly God Sword was sent flying, Long Qin was also with the young master. The ultimate profound of the time law turned into a translucent long sword and placed it across Li Feng's neck. There was a bloody mark on his nose and streams of blood flowed down. "You lost," Long Qin said. Li Feng clenched his fists, his eyes filled with unwillingness. "Don't be unconvinced. This is not a spar, nor is it a game. I have a sovereign weapon. This is my ability and ability. You don't have it. That's your problem. So don't make me look down on you." Long Qin waved her hand, and the time divine sword dissipated. The angel's sword also turned into a stream of light and disappeared into her body. Li Feng lowered his head and his eyes kept trembling. Drops of tears fell. These were tears of unwillingness. After cultivating so hard for so many years, he actually lost to Long Qin. Was the blood feud of the village really over? Could everyone rest in peace? "Ah, I'm really a piece of trash," Li Feng roared at the sky, tears blurring his vision. "This is not good. He's been hit." Lunatic whispered. "He's shouldering too much. Even if he wins this battle against Long Qin, it's impossible for him to really let it go." Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. How could he comfort him? But suddenly, Long Chun took a step forward and landed in front of Li Feng. "Huh." Everyone looked at Long Chun suspiciously. "If you want to laugh, laugh." Li Feng glanced at Long Chun and turned to leave. Long Chin's heart trembled. From Li Feng's eyes, there was no color, as if he was a walking corpse. It seemed that the blow this time was really not small. "I'm not here to laugh at you." Long Chun looked at Li Feng's back and said. After saying that, under everyone's shocked gaze, he knelt in the void. "Brother?" Long Qin hurried forward, pulled Long Chun, and asked, "What are you doing? Why did you kneel to him?" "You kneel to me?" When Li Feng heard this, he suddenly trembled and turned to look at Long Qin. He was still kneeling in the void, and said angrily, "Are you humiliating me? I've been defeated by your sister, and you still kneel to me?" "I don't mean to humiliate you. I'm not kneeling to you. I'm kneeling to the souls of those who died tragically in Yunshan Village." Yunshan Village was massacred by the dragon's clansmen. As the prince of the dragons, I also have an unshirkable responsibility. I apologize to you on behalf of them. After saying that, Long Chun bowed. Li Feng lowered his head and looked at Long Chun, his hands tightly clenched together. At this moment, his heart was extremely complicated. While blaming Long Zun, he was also blaming Long Chun and Long Qin. But he never thought that Long Chun would actually kneel in the void and beg for forgiveness at this moment. One must know, he was defeated by Long Qin. But Long Chun still chose to do this. He was moved. The hatred that had been buried in his heart also loosened. At the same time, he was in pain again. Did he really have to let go of this hatred? But his heart was in a mess. He didn't know how much time had passed. He turned around, looked at the horizon, and said, "I admire you, just like I admire Qin Dage, because you are a responsible man. But this hatred has long been deeply rooted in my heart. It's really too difficult for me to let it go. Get up, I want to be alone and think about it." After saying that, Li Feng took a step forward and left without looking back. Long Chun raised his head and looked at Li Feng's back. A trace of a smile gradually crept into his eyes, because he could feel that the hatred in Li Feng's heart was changing. Long Qin pulled Long Chun up and said discontentedly, "I've never seen such a foolish brother like you. Fortune favors fools." Long Chun smiled slightly. There was no use in running away from these things. He could only face it. See? This is Long Chun. For the sake of the overall situation, he can let go of everything. We can't not cherish such a person. The demon ancestor laughed secretly. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Even Lunatic was full of admiration for Long Chun at this moment. In order to eliminate the hatred in Li Feng's heart, he could actually let go of a man's dignity. If it were him, he would definitely not be able to do it. He hoped that Li Feng could walk out of the hatred. After all, the dead can't be resurrected. The living should live well and not be controlled by hatred. If one was always bound by hatred, even if one could live a peaceful life, one's life would lose its meaning and would not even have the most basic happiness. Chapter 4029. Li Feng left. No one knew where he went. Although Qin Feiyang was worried, he didn't chase after him. Because Long Chun had already gone this far, what else could he say? He could only let Li Feng make his own decision. The group was preparing to enter the Black Tortoise world. But at this moment, a figure descended in the void ahead. Qin Feiyang and the others looked up, and their eyes lit up. The person who came was Old Wu of the Divine Kingdom. As soon as Old Wu arrived, he saw Qin Feiyang and the others and said, "Qin Feiyang, come with me." With that, he turned and walked into the distance. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Long Qin, Madman, and the others were also puzzled. What did this person mean? Madman frowned and said, "He should be here to deliver the ultimate inheritance, right? But why did he call you over alone?" "Who knows?" Qin Feiyang shrugged and let go of the mermaid princess's hand. "Wait for me here." With that, he chased after Old Wu. A moment later, the two of them, one in front and one behind, arrived above a shattered mountain. Old Wu finally stopped. Qin Feiyang walked over and looked at Old Wu's back. Old Wu also turned around and sized up Qin Feiyang for a while before saying, "Now you're impressive. Even the monarch was defeated by you." There was a hint of sarcasm in his words. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "If you came here just to say this, then forgive me for not seeing you off." As expected, after comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, you started to become arrogant. Old Wu sneered. "I'm arrogant?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Was this person here to find trouble? If he was arrogant, would he have followed them all the way here? If he was arrogant, would he have called him you? The word you was a form of respect for old people. How could he not see such obvious respect? She really wondered if there was something wrong with this old man's eyes. "This is what you want." Old Man Wu waved his hand and 15 palm-sized iron boxes appeared in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang released his divine sense and scanned it briefly before putting it away. "Aren't you going to open it?" Old Wu was stunned. "Is it necessary? If there's nothing else, please go back." Qin Feiyang looked at him disdainfully. Since he said that the old man had no regard for anyone, he would let this old man experience what it meant to have no regard for anyone. Old Wu blew his beard and glared. "Are you all right?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. His expression was filled with impatience. "You?" Old Wu glared at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, "I am at least half a teacher to the princess of the Divine Kingdom." "You? So what? What does it have to do with me? Besides, half a teacher can't mean anything. Don't flaunt your seniority in front of me." "Why? You're not convinced? Suppress me if you can." Qin Feiyang sneered. That's right, this was arrogance. He really wanted to ask this old man if he felt good. Was there a need to ask? Old Wu was about to explode when he saw Qin Feiyang's arrogant attitude. If he didn't know that he couldn't win, he would have attacked. "Hurry up, don't waste my time," Qin Feiyang urged. If there was nothing else, this old man wouldn't have called him here alone. "I'll endure it." Old Wu took a few deep breaths and calmed the anger in his heart. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Do you have a grudge against the ice dragon and the heaven-devouring beast?" "How do you know?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "At that time, before you fought with the king, didn't the heaven-devouring beast say that you had a 10,000-year agreement with it and bet the lives of several continents? For you to bet the lives of several continents with it, I'm afraid this is not an ordinary hatred," Old Wu said. So the king and the others heard it. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. However, why did this old man suddenly mention this matter? After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "I do have a great hatred with them." Old Wu smiled, glanced around, and said in a low voice, "There is a saying that there are no eternal enemies in the world. only eternal interests. Since you have a grudge against them, why don't you cooperate with our divine kingdom? Cooperation? Qin Feiyong was stunned. Yes, cooperation. You should have experienced the strength of our divine kingdom by now. If we help you, your chances of successfully taking revenge in the future will definitely be much higher. Old Wu smiled. This, Qin Feiyong pretended to ponder. For you, this matter can only be beneficial. Moreover, you have the purple gold dragon blood and are the descendant of Her Highness the Princess. Naturally, you are family with the king. Since you are family, you should work together to fight against the enemy. Tell me, is there any truth to what this old man said? Old Wu looked at him with a smile. It makes sense. Qin Feiyong nodded. That's right. We are family. There is no need to make such a fuss. The ice dragon and the heaven-devouring beast are our biggest enemies. You may not know how strong they are. In fact, I don't know either, but I heard from the king that even if our divine kingdom and your sky cloud realm join forces, we still can't beat them. Think about it. Such a powerful existence. Is it something you can deal with alone? Old Wu struck while the iron was hot and continued to instigate. Fighting alone is indeed very difficult. Qin Feiyong kept nodding. So, as long as we work together, you will no longer be alone. With the foundation of our divine kingdom, we can definitely be your backer. Not to say that you will immediately seek revenge, but at least you won't have to be so humble when you see them in the future. Old Wu looked at Qin Feiyong with a smile. He didn't expect this kid to be so easy to fool. Haha, however, just as his imagination was running wild, Qin Feiyong smiled. With a playful expression, he said, "Do you think that you can make me your chess piece by relying on your glib tongue?" Old Wu frowned. Even the ruler of your divine kingdom is scared to death when he sees the ice dragon and the small beast. Don't you think it's ridiculous to say that you want to be my backer? Also, all this time, I have not been fighting alone. I have a group of reliable companions around me. You people are not even 1/10,000th of them. No, saying 1/10,000th is flattering you. You are not even 1/10,000th of them. And the family you mentioned is even more of a joke. If the king really considers me, Qin Feiyong, as his family, would he come to kill me when I am going through the tribulation? He even didn't hesitate to violate the blood oath? That's not how you treat your family. Of course, you are my family. I, Qin Feiyong, am also not worthy of you. As for the ice dragon and the sky-swallowing beast, you don't have to worry about that. I will take care of it myself. If you're in the mood, you might as well train Ryuko and the others. After all, they are all the heavens' prides of the divine kingdom. If you lose again and again, you will not lose the face of the sky cloud realm, but the face of your divine kingdom. Qin Feiyong said with a mocking face. It could be said that he was merciless. Old Wu clenched his fists. Don't stare at me like that, and don't treat me as a fool. Although I am not as old as you, in terms of conspiracy, I will not put 100 of you in my eyes. Okay, that's it. I won't see you off. Take care. Qin Feiyong laughed and turned around without looking back. He waved his hand and strode away. Little bastard. Old Wu stared at Qin Feiyong's back with a gloomy face. He came to deliver the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning out of kindness, but he did not expect to be severely humiliated. It was too much, but he never thought that if he did not take advantage of his seniority in the beginning, would Qin Feiyong humiliate him like that? He was purely looking for trouble. Who are you calling a little bastard? Suddenly, a voice filled with murderous intent rang out. Old Wu was shocked and quickly turned his head to the left. He saw a young man in blood-red clothes standing on the mountain below like a beast. This young man was Li Feng. He was just casually looking for a place to calm down. However, he did not expect that Old Wu would bring Qin Feiyong here. Thus, he had heard the conversation between the two of them. Li Feng? Old Wu's pupils shrank. Li Feng took a step forward and landed in front of Old Wu. He said coldly, "Answer me, little bastard." Old Wu raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "Are all the juniors of the sky cloud realm so presumptuous?" Killing intent flashed in Li Feng's eyes. He had already sensed the moment the battle broke out. He stopped there and watched silently. Seeing old Wu flee in panic, he could not help but shake his head and laugh. What an unlucky guy. Then, he pondered for a while, then turned around and left without saying a word. Now, he should give Li Feng some time alone. There were some things that Li Feng had to figure out himself. When he really could not figure it out, he would come forward to enlighten him. After all, he was no longer a child. He could not rely on him for everything. Chapter 40-30. Returning to the sky above the Shun family village, everyone looked at Qin Feiyong expectantly. Are you all so impatient? Qin Feiyong smiled at the group. Nonsense. How can we not be impatient with the inheritance of 15 ultimate mysteries? Madman rolled his eyes at him and laughed. Quickly take it out and let us take a look. Don't worry, let's go to the Black Tortoise world first. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and looked down at the Shin family village. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but look down. The Shin family village had already turned into ruins. Madman said, although I don't know how the Shin family village can help you, you seem to care about them. How about we help them? How? Qin Feiyong turned to look at him. Madman thought for a moment and said, give them crystal vein, soul vein, time array, or law miniature. These are all worldly possessions. I don't think they will care. Qin Feiyong shook his head. The older generation doesn't care, but the younger generation definitely needs it. Because there are a large number of crystal vein and soul vein, as well as time array, the young people of the Shun family village can quickly grow up. At that time, they will be able to walk out of the mountain and enter a wider world, displaying their talent and ability, Madman said. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. You don't understand them. An ordinary life is what they want the most. Then I don't know what to give them.
Madman asked.
Actually, I don't know either. Qin Feiyong shook his head and pondered for a moment before saying, what I think is actually similar to what you think. The only difference is that I want to help the young people of the village open the door of potential. Door of potential? Madman was shocked. Long Chun also looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. He actually wanted to help the young people of the Shin family village open the door of potential? All these years, how did the people of the Shin family village help him? I object. Suddenly, Mermaid Princess spoke. Huh. Qin Feiyong turned to look at the Mermaid Princess. In the past, no matter what decision he made, the Mermaid Princess would always support him. But now, she was actually opposing him? This was the first time. The reason I'm against it is not because I can't bear to part with it. The Mermaid Princess shook her head. I know. Qin Feiyong nodded. How could he not understand his beloved wife? It could be said that it was hard to meet someone kinder than her. I object because I'm worried. Although there are quite a few people who have opened the door of potential, such as He Zhongtian, Elder Hua, the Alliance leader, and so on, the news of the potential pill has yet to be leaked. I believe I don't need to tell you the importance of these potential pills. If news of this leaks out, it will definitely cause a huge uproar. This is actually not important. The most important thing is, what will the Divine Kingdom do if they receive the news? They will definitely do everything they can to deal with us. When that time comes, there will be endless trouble. The Mermaid Princess said worriedly. That makes sense. Long Chun also nodded and said, although Elder Hua and the others are not as strong as us, they are still considered the top figures in the Sky Cloud realm. They have the ability to keep this secret. However, the strongest person in the Shin family village is only a war god. If we really help them open the door of potential, I'm afraid that not only will we not help them, but we will also harm them. When Qin Feiyong heard this, he couldn't help but frown slightly. He really didn't think about this point. And the Mermaid Princess and Long Chin's worries weren't without reason. The strength of the Shin family village was too weak. If they were discovered to have opened the door of potential, they would definitely be targeted and even be killed. Treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This was equivalent to harming them. Actually, there is no need to care so much. Everyone has their own fate. We will try our best to give them what we can, but whether they can keep it or not is their own business. After all, we can't protect them forever. Madman said, what about the Divine Kingdom? If the divine kingdom learns of this news, then we will definitely suffer. The mermaid princess frowned. What are you afraid of? Now, even the monarch is no match for old Qin. At worst, we will fight with them. Madman laughed arrogantly. The mermaid princess was stunned. Long Chun and the others also smiled bitterly. It was true that Qin Feiyong could defeat the monarch, but it should be known that the monarch was not the only strong person in the divine kingdom. In addition to the divine king and the supremes of the human clan, there were many strong people of the older generation. There might even be many old antiques who were as strong as the monarch. Once all these people came out, then no matter how strong Qin Feiyong was, he would be powerless to reverse the situation. And now, the only person in the Sky Cloud realm who had the strength to fight with the monarch was Qin Feiyong. Therefore, they couldn't be careless when facing the divine kingdom. How could I not have thought of your worries? Right now, we are indeed unable to compete with the divine kingdom, but it will be hard to say in a while. Madman chuckled. What do you mean? Don't tell me that in a while. Your strength will be able to catch up with the monarch and the others, Yun Ziang said. Maybe. Madman grinned at Yun Ziang, then looked at Qin Feiyong sneakily. Why are you looking at me? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. Madman laughed and said, The winning treasure is on you. Who else should I look at? Me? Qin Feiyong was stunned. He didn't even know what winning treasure he had. Didn't that old man send 15 inheritances? As long as we handle it properly, won't we be able to create a few people who have mastered the ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws? As long as we master the ultimate profound of the 6 supreme laws, we will be able to fuse with the will of the heavenly Tao. This way, won't we have the ability to fight with the human race and the divine king? Madman's eyes lit up. When everyone heard this, they were slightly stunned. It seemed to make sense. So there is no need to be afraid at all. Think about it. Before old Qin comprehended the ultimate profound of the law of life and death, we dared to challenge them, let alone now. Don't be intimidated by them. Madman waved his hand indifferently. When Qin Feiyong and the others heard this, they looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. They were really intimidated by the divine kingdom. He had become timid and timid. Okay. Let's do as senior brother said. There is nothing to worry about. Lawlessness is our way of doing things. Qin Feiyong smiled. It seems that you are about to become a madman. Long Chun shook his head. It's good to be crazy because you can ignore the fear in your heart. Qin Feiyong laughed and led everyone into the black tortoise world. When they appeared in the tea garden, under Madman's anxious gaze, Qin Feiyong waved his hand and the 15 iron boxes appeared. What do you want to do? While I'm not here, you want to divide these inheritances. At this time, the white-eyed wolf ran over and stared at Qin Feiyong and the others. Then, he stared at the 15 iron boxes on the stone table with green eyes. Brother Wolf, you can't snatch it. Madman hurriedly pushed the white-eyed wolf away. Fuck, is your brother such a person? The white-eyed wolf immediately stared at him. Yes. As soon as this statement came out, everyone immediately nodded. The white-eyed wolf's mouth twitched and said with a smile, Don't be like this. We are all on the same side. It doesn't make any difference who gives it to. Qin Feiyong shook his head and said with a smile, Let's open it first. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf couldn't wait to open one of the iron boxes. A terrifying death force surged out like a tide. The inheritance of the law of death. Everyone's eyes lit up, but the white-eyed wolf was disappointed. Because it wasn't the law of life and law of destruction that he wanted. He quickly put down the iron box and opened another one. All of a sudden, everyone was stunned. Inside this iron box was also the law of death. 2 inheritances of the law of death? What the hell? That's not right. Qin Feiyong frowned. At that time, when he scanned with his divine sense, he sensed the aura of various law inheritances. The white-eyed wolf opened another iron box, but the result was still the law of death. Don't tell me that this is all the inheritance of the law of death? Madman frowned. Something's not right. Qin Feiyong released his divine sense and shrouded the remaining iron boxes. The aura of the iron boxes was indeed the aura of various law inheritances. He grabbed an iron box, and under the perception of his divine sense, it was the aura of the law of destruction. When he opened the iron box, he was dumbfounded on the spot. Although he sensed the aura of the law of destruction, when he opened it, it was still the inheritance of the law of death. What's going on here? Everyone couldn't help but frown. Something's not right. They did something to it. Qin Feiyang's eyes sank. With a wave of his hand, all the iron boxes opened in an instant. What appeared in front of them were all the inheritances of the law of death. Everyone was dumbfounded. All of the inheritances of the law of death? This must be a joke. They rubbed their eyes hard and looked again. There were no changes to the 15 inheritances of the law of death. Long Chun raised his eyebrows and also released his divine sense to shroud the 15 iron boxes. At that moment, he found a clue. On the iron boxes, there was a different aura of the law of death. These 15 iron boxes have been tampered with. They integrated the aura of the law of death into the iron boxes to conceal the aura of the law of death. Long Chun said, "How can they be so shameless?" The madman was furious. The white-eyed wolf turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Little Qinzi, didn't you check it in person?" "No, I just scanned it with my divine sense." Qin Feiyang lowered his head, his face extremely ugly. He was actually tricked by the people of the divine kingdom. "What's wrong with you? Such an important thing, you actually didn't check it in person." The white-eyed wolf was extremely annoyed. They were all the inheritances of the law of death. What use were they to them? The madman's face was also ashen. He wanted to integrate a few different inheritances so that he could master the will of heaven, but he didn't expect that the divine kingdom actually gave them 15 inheritances of the law of death. He had already mastered the law of death, so it was useless to him. It could even be said that it was worthless to him personally. Sigh. I was careless. Qin Feiyang sighed. But he really didn't expect the divine kingdom to be so despicable. It seems that the divine kingdom also thought that we want to use these inheritances to master the will of heaven, so they gave us 15 inheritances of the law of death. Long Chun shook his head and smiled bitterly. Chapter 4031. Little Qinzi, you have to take full responsibility for this. The white-eyed wolf stared at Qin Feiyang. You can't blame Qin Feiyang for this. Long Chun shook his head. You can't blame him? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and asked suspiciously, then who is to blame? Even if Qin Feiyang opens the iron box and discovers this, he can't turn the situation around. It's very simple. Although the Scandinavia promised to give us 15 ultimate profundities, they did not specify which ultimate profundities they were. Of course, we can't deny that their actions are somewhat unethical. However, they have fulfilled their promise. Although they are all ultimate profound meanings of the law of death, there are indeed 15 of them. Therefore, we can't say that they cheated. Long Chun explained. Everyone nodded after hearing this. Indeed, Qin Feiyang wasn't the only one who was careless. They were careless as well. They didn't make it clear in advance and allowed the other party to take advantage of the loophole. Then what should we do now? The white-eyed wolf looked at Long Chun, his face full of unwillingness. The inheritance of 15 ultimate profound meanings was right in front of them, but it was worthless. It was really driving them crazy. I don't know either. Long Chun shook his head. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang again. What else can we do? After all, it's the inheritance of the strongest ultimate profound meanings of the law. We can't just throw it away. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and sighed. Since we can't use it, let's give it to those who need it. Although they had all mastered the ultimate profound meaning of the law of death, the people around them hadn't, such as the Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, Zhou Shaoxian, Pei Tianhong, the Demon Ancestor, and so on. It was worthless to them, but it was undoubtedly a great fortune for these people. 15 ultimate profound meanings of the 15 ultimate profound meanings of the law of death. It was a good harvest. That's the only way. The white-eyed wolf sighed helplessly. Now that he had mastered the 4 ultimate profound meanings, he was only missing the Destruction Edict and the Life Edict. He had been counting on this opportunity, but he didn't expect to be tricked by the divine kingdom. Long Qin looked at the disappointed white-eyed wolf, then turned to Long Qian and whispered, "Brother, look at how pitiful they are. Why don't we help them?" Although his voice was very soft, everyone present heard him. Immediately, everyone turned to look at the pair of siblings. Help? Long Chun was also stunned. He asked suspiciously, "How?" Long Qin said confidently, "We definitely can't help, but father can." Ugh. Long Chun was stunned. Qin Feiyong and the others also looked at each other. Ask the ice dragon for help? Was that even possible? Ice dragon wasn't that kind-hearted. Don't count on it. Long Qin looked at Long Chun and continued, "I know it's impossible to ask father to give them the inheritance, but we can exchange." Exchange? Long Chun was stunned and suddenly became interested. He said, "Say it more clearly. Aren't there 15 inheritances of the Death Edict here? Let's take these 15 inheritances to father and exchange them for the edict inheritance they need. I don't think father will refuse such a small matter." Long Qin smiled. "Good idea." Hearing that, Long Qin's eyes lit up, and he immediately clapped his hands and cheered. This time, it was because father and the others came forward that we were able to get these 15 inheritances. And now, the divine kingdom is playing us like this, which is equivalent to disrespecting father and the others. As long as we tell them the truth, they will definitely be furious. By then, we don't even need to waste our breath, and they will agree. Long Qin smiled. Long Chun raised his head, rubbed Long Qin's head, and said with a smile, "You're quite smart this time. When am I not smart?" Long Qin was dissatisfied. "Yes, yes, yes." Long Qian nodded repeatedly, and his face was full of doting. But then, he frowned. "What's wrong?" Long Qin was puzzled. "The idea is good, but how do we contact father?" Long Chen frowned. "Isn't that simple? Although we can't contact him, mother can," Long Qin said. "Mother?" Long Chen heard that, glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others, and said telepathically, with mother's character, "If she knows that it's because Qin Feiyong and the others need father's help, she definitely won't help. So we can't let mother know. We'll say that we miss father and ask her to help us contact him." Long Qin smiled, and a sly look flashed in his eyes. Long Qian was stunned, and the look in his eyes became very strange. "What's wrong?" Long Qin looked at him in confusion. "You're lying to mother. Qin, you've never done this in the past, and it's for Qin Feiyong and the others," Long Chun said to himself. "Is that so?" Long Qin looked flustered and said with a smile, "Don't misunderstand. I just feel sorry for them." "Is that so?" Long Chun looked at him with a faint smile. "Yes. What else do you think? Let's talk about it later. If they become stronger, we'll be able to relax a lot, right?" Long Qin said. Long Chun shook his head and smiled. He rubbed Long Qin's head again, and his face was full of relief. Perhaps even Long Qin herself didn't realize that she was gradually changing. "What are you doing?" "I'm not a kitten. Why do you keep rubbing my head?" Long Qin slapped Long Chin's hand away and glared at him angrily. Long Chun laughed heartily and turned to look at Qin Feiyong. "If you trust me, give me these 15 inheritances first. I'll try to find father and see if I can exchange them for the laws you need. You're treating me like an outsider. What's our relationship? How can I not trust you?" Madman laughed, quickly closed the iron box, and pushed it all in front of Long Chun. "Yes, yes, yes. We're all comrades who have gone through life and death together. If we don't even have the basic trust, are we still human?" White-eyed Wolf also nodded repeatedly. "If it really worked, it would be a great help to them. I've never seen people turn hostile faster than you." Long Qin looked at him with disdain. "Don't talk nonsense. When did we turn hostile? We've always treated you and your sister as companions." White-eyed Wolf waved his hand and said unhappily. Long Qin's mouth kept twitching. His skin was so thick that no one could compare to him. Long Chen's face was also full of a helpless smile. "All right then, Qin and I will go back first. As for the matter of the king, we'll talk about it slowly after this matter is settled. If it really works, When we go to the divine kingdom in the future, I'll be the first to rush to the front. White-eyed wolf patted his chest. All right, don't be so excited. Whether it works or not is another matter. Long Chun looked at White-eyed Wolf speechlessly and was about to leave when he suddenly paused and looked at everyone. When the time comes, how do you plan to distribute these 15 inheritances? What inheritances do you need? Tell me first. If Father agrees, I can tell him directly. I don't need to say anything. The law of destruction and the law of life. White-eyed Wolf was the first to speak. However, Frenzied was in a dilemma. Yun Ziang, demon ancestor, and the others lowered their heads and remained silent. Why are you so impatient? Qin Feiyong stared at White-eyed Wolf, then looked at demon ancestor and the others. Everyone who participated in this battle should have a share. White-eyed Wolf looked up at Qin Feiyong. If everyone had a share, how many experts who could fuse with the will of the Great Path could be created? Mu Tianyang and Dong Zhengyang looked at each other with a trace of disappointment in their hearts. If only those who participated in the battle had a share, then the two of them definitely had no hope. Long Qin pondered for a moment, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Brother Qin, regarding what you said, I hold an objection this time. Qin Feiyong looked at Long Chun suspiciously. Although everyone has gone through life and death together and fought side by side this time, the current situation does not allow us to do so. We must pick out a few of the strongest people and let them grasp the ultimate mysteries of the 6 strongest laws and activate the will of the Great Path. Long Chun explained. I also agree. Since you, Qin Feiyong, can deal with the monarch, we can temporarily not consider it. As for the 2 overlords, the Divine King and the human race's Jizun, someone must restrain or even suppress them. Long Qin nodded. Who can suppress them? Zhuo Shaoxian asked. Let's talk about the Divine King first. Apart from Qin Feiyong, there is only one person who can contend with the Divine King's God race mark. Long Qin looked at everyone and said with a smile, I don't need to say more about this person. Everyone looked at Frenzied at the same time. That's right. Only Frenzied's origin of all evil could compete with the Divine King's God race mark. Even Long Qin's God's domain could not. Long Chun said, So, Frenzied must integrate with the will of the Great Path as soon as possible. I believe no one has any objections. No. Everyone shook their heads. Then let's talk about the Golden-Winged Wolf King. Everyone knows about his battle soul. As long as he is given time, he can even take away the monarch's cultivation, laws, and battle soul. So, he must integrate with the will of the Great Path as well. Long Chun said again, At least you have some eyesight and know how powerful this brother is. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Long Chun shook his head and smiled, then looked at the demon ancestor. Why are you looking at me? I don't even have an ultimate mystery of the strongest law. The demon ancestor smiled bitterly. That's not important. What's important is that your Eye of Despair has evolved. At the beginning of the battle, if it wasn't for your Eye of Despair, we would all be finished. So, you must integrate with the will of the Great Path as soon as possible. However, you need too many inheritances. This will undoubtedly affect the interests of others. So, you have to get everyone's agreement. After Long Chun said that, he looked at Yun Ziang, the masked Shura, Qin Feiyong, the white-eyed wolf, and Frenzied. It doesn't matter. The white-eyed wolf shrugged his shoulders. Anyway, he didn't need many inheritances, just 2. He could distribute the rest as he pleased. Moreover, the current demon ancestor was reassuring. The power of the Eye of Despair is obvious to all. If the demon ancestor also had the ultimate mystery of the strongest law when he fought with Ryuko and the others, then it might have been a different outcome. So, I have no objections. Yun Ziang said. No. The masked Shura shook his head. Qin Feiyong and Frenzied looked at each other and smiled faintly, representing their attitude. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand. The greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. So, let's just be normal. Long Chen smiled and looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Long Chen and his sister disappeared. Do you think Ice Dragon will agree? The frenzied one asked nervously. If he doesn't agree, I'll pluck his hair. The white-eyed wolf snorted. Everyone was stunned. If you really had the ability, why would you sit here and wait for the news? You would have taken the initiative to find Ice Dragon. As Long Chen said, let's just be normal. Qin Feiyang smiled and turned to Yun Ziang and the masked de Jura. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely help you. What are you talking about? Yun Ziang waved his hand and said with a smirk, actually, by agreeing to Long Chen, we've profited. Profited? The frenzied one was stunned. That's right. He gave the inheritance to Li Feng because he felt guilty. If it was me, he wouldn't have given out an inheritance for free. Although I didn't get anything personally, from the collective benefits, we've earned an extra inheritance. Yun Ziang smirked. That makes sense. The frenzied one nodded and grinned. But I still admire you and you, Azura. However, the masked Azura only smiled coldly. Mu Tianyang looked at the demon ancestor with jealousy and said, You've really profited this time. It's all thanks to everyone's care. The demon ancestor chuckled. Who wouldn't be happy to receive 6 inheritances at once? Mu Tianyang pursed his lips and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. When our battle souls evolve in the future, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head. This depends on luck, because we won't be so lucky every time. Too fake. Mu Tianyang looked at him with disdain. He was envious of the demon ancestor. He had obtained the inheritance of 6 ultimate laws and reached the heavens in one step. Dong Zhengyang took a sip of tea and rolled his eyes. Look at how envious you are. Wait until Ice Dragon agrees, then you can be envious. Heard about it. Mu Tianyang was slightly stunned and nodded. True. Ice Dragon hasn't agreed yet. Qin Feiyang looked at everyone and then at the mermaid princess. He whispered, Accompany me to find Li Zhongxing and the others. Okay. The mermaid princess nodded. You guys chat. After Qin Feiyang said this, he pulled the mermaid princess and turned to walk towards a courtyard. After they left the tea garden, he asked, You won't blame me, right? Blame you? The mermaid princess looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Are you talking to me? Is there anyone else here? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. I don't think so. The mermaid princess looked around and shook her head. She said suspiciously, I don't understand. Why should I blame you? You didn't do anything to let me down. 15 inheritances. I gave them all. I didn't give you any. I really feel that I've let you down. Qin Feiyang sighed. So this is what you're talking about. Don't think so much. You have your own considerations. Moreover, Long Chen's suggestion is perfect. As for me, I've never thought about that. My biggest wish is that every time you go out to fight, you can return to my side safely. That's enough. The mermaid princess smiled gently. Qin Feiyang stopped and turned to look at the mermaid princess. Finally, he hugged her affectionately and said with a smile, Being able to marry you is the luckiest thing in my life. The mermaid princess was stunned for a moment. Then, a sweet smile appeared on her face. Thank you, Qin Feiyang said silently in his heart. Then, he pulled the mermaid princess and continued to walk toward the courtyard of Li Zhongxing and the other 2. Have you noticed that Long Qin is a little different now? The mermaid princess suddenly asked. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. It seems that the mediation of the demon ancestor worked. I really hope that you can maintain such a relationship in the future. The mermaid princess smiled. We will. Qin Feiyang nodded. Dragon's Nest? Long Chen walked toward Long Zun's attic and said with a smile, Qin, you have to cooperate with me later. Why should I cooperate with you? Long Qin snorted coldly. So this is your idea. Long Chen said, I'm only in charge of digging holes, not burying them. Long Qin raised her head proudly. Seeing this, Long Chen could not help but laugh. Soon, the brother and sister came to the attic and saw Long Zun sitting on the balcony on the 2nd floor. Ling Long was carefully serving her beside her. Mother! Long Qin shouted and ran to the balcony. Long Chun also had a smile on his face as he landed opposite Long Zun. Long Zun's face was extremely calm when she saw that the brother and sister had returned safely. Long Qin looked at Long Zun and said unhappily, "Mother, you're too calm. Aren't you afraid that we'll die in the Western continent?" Long Zun looked up at Long Qin and shook her head with a smile. "We're not dead yet, are we?" Long Qin was stunned. She was not worried about her at all. Was she really adopted? "You've misunderstood Master Long Zun. Actually, she was very worried about you, especially when you were fighting with the Divine Kingdom. She had been praying in her heart. But not long ago, we received news that you won a great victory and that the people of the Divine Kingdom had left, so she was relieved." Ling Long said with a smile, "You talk too much." Long Zun glared at her. Ling Long giggled and even made a face. She was no longer afraid of Long Zun. "I see." News spread really fast. Long Qin suddenly realized. He walked up to Long Zun and said with a smile, "I knew it. You didn't adopt me." "Adopt me? What do you mean?" Long Zun looked at Long Qin in a daze. Ahem. Long Chen coughed and quickly changed the topic. "Mother, did father come to look for you?" "No." Long Zun's face suddenly turned cold. She looked up at the brother and sister and said angrily, "And you too? Don't laugh at me." "Ah." The brother and sister looked at Long Zun in shock. What was going on? "You two are amazing. You actually risked your life to protect Qin Feiyong. It seems that you have forgotten how he slaughtered our dragons back then." Long Zun said angrily, "You know about this too?" Long Qin looked surprised. This matter is no longer a secret. It has spread throughout the Sky Cloud realm, and Qin Feiyong comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death and defeated the monarch. Everyone knows about it, Ling Long said. Long Qin turned to look at Long Chun. "It should be the news that Feather Emperor and the others spread." Long Chun smiled bitterly. "Then, is this true or not?" Long Zun looked at the two with a face full of anger. Long Qin didn't dare to speak. Long Chun didn't have any fear. She nodded and said, "It's true." "Bastard." Long Zun slammed her palm on the tea table, shattering it on the spot. Although the Eastern Continent, Southern Continent, and Northern Continent were discussing this matter, she still had a trace of hope that it might just be rumors. So, she had been suppressing the anger in her heart, but she never thought that it would be true. So, her anger erupted. "Mother, I know you hate Qin Feiyong and the others, but now that we are facing the Divine Kingdom, we can't do without them. Take this time, for example. If Qin Feiyong hadn't comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, no one would have been able to defeat the monarch." Long Chun hurriedly explained, "But you are not allowed to help him. You still want to risk your lives for him? Are your lives so worthless?" Long Zun shouted angrily. "Mother, don't you understand? I am not helping him. I am helping the Sky Cloud realm and the billions of living beings in the Sky Cloud realm." Long Chun sighed. How could she eliminate the hatred in her mother's heart? Chapter 4033. "Yes, Mother. If we don't help Qin Feiyong, then Qin Feiyong and the others will die." Long Qin also plucked up the courage to argue with Long Zun. But before she finished, Long Zun was burning with anger and shouted, "What does their death have to do with you?" "Of course it does. If they die, do you think the Divine Kingdom will let us go? In the current situation, no matter how deep the hatred is, we have to let go." Long Qin sighed. "Damn girl, you're all grown up, aren't you? You even dare to talk back to me." Long Zun's face darkened, and he glared at Long Qin. Why did he feel that this daughter was a little different from before? Because in the past, when facing Qin Feiyong and the others, Long Qin stood with her. But this time she stood with Long Chen. "I didn't." Long Qin lowered her head. She couldn't go back on her words. Before the battle with Li Feng, they had already agreed. If she defeated Li Feng, the grudge would be written off. If Li Feng defeated her, then she would kneel down and apologize to Li Feng on behalf of her mother. In the end, she was the winner. Naturally, the grudge would be written off. In fact, what really made her let go of her hatred was Long Chen's kneeling. Long Chen's kneeling made her feel deeply. They had already agreed that as long as she won this battle, no matter how unwillingly Feng was, he could only give up. In other words, Long Chen's kneeling was completely unnecessary. But in the end, Long Chen still knelt down and apologized. This was enough to show his inner thoughts and persistence. It was also because of Long Chen's persistence that Long Chen chose to let go of her hatred. No? Then why are you still speaking for your brother? Long Zuan said angrily. Your daughter is being reasonable. Long Chen lowered her head and muttered, According to you, I'm unreasonable? Long Zuan was very angry. No, no. Long Chen quickly waved his hand and looked at Long Chen for help. After letting go of her hatred, she finally felt the same way. Every time they talked about Qin Feiyong and the others, Big Brother was under a lot of pressure. But this pressure was not brought by Qin Feiyong, but by his mother. Long Chen pondered for a while and said helplessly, Mother, things have already turned out this way. It's useless to blame us. Why don't you let it go? You'll feel better. I'm in a bad mood. Long Zuan coldly snorted. Then what should I do to make you feel better? Do you want to beat me up? Long Chen looked at Ling Long and said, Go and find a stick. As long as it can appease my mother, she can beat me however she wants. This, Ling Long looked at Long Chen and his sister, then at Long Zun with an anxious expression. She really wanted to persuade Long Zun. That was because she did not feel any hatred toward Qin Feiyang. On the contrary, there was a trace of gratitude. Because back then in the Tianzhong Divine Treasure, Qin Feiyang didn't make things difficult for her father. He also didn't take away the sovereign divine weapon of the Silver Dragon clan. However, she wasn't Long Chen, nor was she Long Qin. She didn't have the guts to speak to Long Zun. You think I don't dare to beat you? Long Zun looked at Long Chen. It's natural for a mother to beat her son. Long Chen smiled. Long Zun was furious and shouted, Ling Long, didn't you hear? Go. Okay. Ling Long nodded and quickly turned to run down to the attic below. In the end, she only found a small tree branch after searching for a long time. Looking at the small tree branch that was not even as thick as a little finger, Long Zun's face suddenly darkened. He glared at Ling Long angrily. Are you deliberately angering me? I'm not. Ling Long hurriedly shook her head. Long Chen and Long Qin couldn't help but secretly laugh when they saw this scene. This small tree branch was more like used to drive away mosquitoes. Looking at the innocent Ling Long and Long Chen and his sister who were snickering next to her, Long Zun was so angry that he almost went crazy. He waved his hand and said, Get out, don't let me see it. It's annoying. Thank you for your forgiveness, Mother. I knew it. Mother is the most understanding. Long Qin ran up and hugged Long Zun's arm with a mischievous smile on his face. Seeing this, Long Zun felt helpless. Ling Long asked carefully, Lord Long Zun, where is this stick? Do you call this a stick? Long Zun glared at her angrily. Ling Long laughed dryly and immediately threw the small tree branch down from the balcony. Alas! Long Zun sighed and looked at Long Chen and his sister. I hope you don't forget that we have a feud with Qin Feiyang. Mother, hearing this, Long Qin immediately wanted to say something, but he was stopped by Long Chen in time. At this time, they couldn't mention reconciliation. Otherwise, not to mention helping to contact their father, they would probably be driven away on the spot. Go, I want to rest alone. Long Zun waved his hand. Long Qin didn't let go. Long Chen didn't move either. What? Do you really want to be beaten? Long Zun looked at the brother and sister. No, we miss our father a little, so we want to see him. Long Qin shook his head. Miss him? Long Zun raised his eyebrows and said angrily, He doesn't even come to see you. What else is there to miss? Mother, we are his children. Isn't it normal for children to miss their father? Please help to contact him, I beg you. Long Qin used his unique skill, acting like a spoiled child. Long Zun looked at Long Qin and Long Chen, his face full of anger. What a heartless white-eyed wolf. I worked so hard to bring you up, but I didn't see you say you miss me. Yes, yes, yes. Every mother is the greatest person in the world. Long Qin nodded. Damn girl, you only know how to pick up nice words. Long Zun rolled his eyes and said, "But let's make a deal. When you contact him later, you can talk to them. I don't want to see him." Long Qin and Long Chun looked at each other. Wasn't this what they wanted? They had been thinking about how to send their mother away when they contacted their father. Because if Long Zun was here, they couldn't say anything. Previously, when they helped Qin Feiyong to pass the tribulation, Long Zun was already furious. If Long Zun knew that they were looking for their father to help Qin Feiyong and the others exchange for the law inheritance, wouldn't she fall out with them on the spot? Falling out with them was still a light matter. She might even sever their relationship as mother and daughter in a fit of anger. But they didn't expect Long Zun to take the initiative to mention it. This saved them a lot of trouble. However, they still had to put on an act. Long Qin asked, "Mother, do you dislike father that much?" Although it was just an act, it was what she really wanted to ask. Long Zun glared at her and didn't answer. She took out the divine sound transmission stone and said, "If he isn't in the sky cloud realm now, then I can't contact him, so don't have too much hope." Okay. The brother and sister nodded. They thought, it hadn't been long since the end of the battle. He should still be in the sky cloud realm. With the recovery of the divine sound transmission stone, rays of divine light bloomed. The brother and sister both looked at the divine sound transmission stone nervously and expectantly. Long Zun didn't suspect anything. She only thought that they were nervous and expectant before seeing their father. But she didn't know that the brother and sister were nervous and expectant about exchanging the inheritance. Time passed breath by breath. After a while, Ice Dragon didn't respond. Could it be that he has already left the Sky Cloud realm? The brother and sister suddenly became a little flustered. If he had really left the Sky Cloud realm, then how could they exchange for the inheritance if they couldn't contact him? Long Zun also frowned and scolded. "I've never seen such an irresponsible man." Then she looked at the Long Chun siblings and sighed. "As you can see, we can't contact him." The brother and sister were helpless. But just as Long Zun was about to turn off the divine sound transmission stone, a figure quickly appeared. Who else could it be but Ice Dragon? "What's wrong?" Ice Dragon looked at Long Zun and asked. His expression wasn't cold, but there was also no gentleness between husband and wife. It was as if he was looking at a familiar stranger. "I'm not looking for you." Long Zun coldly snorted and handed the divine sound transmission stone to Long Chen. Long Chun quickly caught it. Long Zun looked at Ice Dragon and said, "Ling Long, accompany me for a walk." "Okay." Ling Long nodded and followed Long Zun downstairs and walked along the stream. "What do you want, kid?" Ice Dragon looked at Long Chun suspiciously. "Me too." Long Qin ran to Long Chen's side. "Qin, Ice Dragon was stunned and looked even more puzzled. Didn't they just meet in the Western continent? Why did he contact him again? "Wait a moment." Long Chun waved his hand. After Ling Long and Long Zun were far away, he looked at Ice Dragon and said, "Father, long story short, we have something that we need your help with. So you were deliberately waiting for your mother to leave." Ice Dragon nodded and asked, "What you want to talk about is related to Qin Feiyong and the others, right? How did you know?" Long Qin was surprised. "Otherwise, why did you wait until your mother left before you dared to talk about it?" Ice Dragon said, "Father is smart." Long Qin smiled. Ice Dragon shook his head helplessly and said with a smile, "Tell me, what is it?" "It's like this." Long Qin briefly explained that the Divine Kingdom had given them 15 ultimate inheritances of the Law of Death. "What? All of them are ultimate inheritances of the Law of Death?" Ice Dragon was stunned. "Yes." Long Qin nodded and snorted. "Don't you think they are abominable?" "They are indeed a little unethical. However, there's no way to settle the score with them. After all, they did give you 15 ultimate inheritances of the Law of Death." Ice Dragon frowned. "It's definitely impossible to settle the score with them. Therefore, we would like to ask for your help. You must have a lot of inheritances in your hands. Otherwise, you wouldn't have given my mother so many back then. Therefore, we want to ask if we can use these 15 inheritances to exchange with you." Long Chun asked with a smile, his expression full of anticipation. "Exchange?" Ice Dragon was stunned. In other words, We will use our 15 inheritances to exchange for other inheritances that everyone needs. In this way, we will be able to create several experts who can activate the will of heaven. Long Chen explained, "There's no need to explain so clearly. I know what you mean. However, I am a little puzzled. Why would you help them to such an extent? Long Chen, you brat. Let's not talk about this first. I know your character. It's not surprising that you would do this. However, little girl, I don't understand you. All this time, haven't you always hated them? Especially Qin Feiyang, Golden Wing Wolf King, and Lunatic. Every time you mention them, you would gnash your teeth in hatred. Why would you help them now?" Ice Dragon looked at Long Qin from head to toe. Could it be that this daughter of his had been possessed? Chapter 4034. Father, stop your imagination. Looking at Ice Dragon's eyes, one could tell that he must be imagining things. Ice Dragon chuckled, looked at the siblings, and said, "I don't have a nomological inheritance now, but with your father's ability, it's only a matter of minutes for me to find a dozen nomological inheritances. However, you have to give me a reason to convince me." The siblings were overjoyed. Long Chen smiled. "Father, to be honest, Qin was the one who suggested it first." Huh. Ice Dragon looked at Long Qin in surprise again. Is she really his daughter? Why does she look more and more different? There's something you don't know. After you left, Qin and Li Feng had a fight. Long Chen quickly explained the situation at that time. I see. Ice Dragon suddenly understood and looked at Long Qin with a smile. Have you really let it go? Long Qin pondered for a while and nodded. Yes, Big Brother was right. Life is long. There's no need to be trapped in the past. I'm glad that you think so. Ice Dragon nodded with a smile, then sighed. How good would it be if your mother could think so? Then I'm afraid it's a little difficult. Long Chen shook his head. You have to face it even if it's difficult. Because it's your responsibility as children. Since Qin suggested it, I naturally can't refuse, because I can't let Qin Feiyang and the others see my daughter as a joke. Ice Dragon chuckled. Really? Long Qin looked at Ice Dragon in disbelief. He thought it would take a lot of persuasion, but he didn't expect him to agree so easily. Yes. Ice Dragon nodded. Thank you, father. Long Qin was overjoyed. Long Chen was the same. He didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Of course. It's not that easy for them to get the law inheritance. Ice Dragon's eyes flashed with a hint of ridicule. What do you mean? The siblings were stunned. Don't worry, you'll know later. Tell me, what kind of inheritance do they need? Ice Dragon gave an enigmatic smile. Long Chen nodded and said, the golden-winged Wolf King wants the inheritance of the laws of destruction and the laws of life. After Long Chen finished speaking, Ice Dragon nodded and said, no problem. Long Chen asked, where should we meet later? Let's do it where we're talking. I'll look for you guys later. After the Ice Dragon finished speaking, the shadow quickly disappeared. Long Chen turned to Long Chen and asked, brother, what does father mean? How would I know? Long Chen smiled bitterly. But what was certain was that it was definitely not a good thing. Immediately after, the two of them went downstairs and followed the stream to find Long Zun and Ling Long. Are you done? Long Zun glanced at the two. Yes. Long Chen nodded and handed the Divine Sound Transmission Stone to Long Zun. Long Zun took the Divine Sound Transmission Stone and pondered for a moment before asking, did he mention me? This? The brother and sister looked at each other and nodded. Yes? Don't lie to me. I watched you guys grow up. I know what you guys are thinking with just a look. Long Zun glared at the two of them and lowered her head to look at the stream. Her eyes were filled with anger. Not to mention their relationship, they weren't even willing to mention it. What kind of husband and wife were they? Sigh. Long Chen sighed and looked at Long Zun. Mother, give me the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the laws of time. You want the inheritance? Long Zun was stunned. Yes. Long Chen nodded. Actually, he wanted it for Li Feng. However, if he said it out loud, Long Zun would definitely not give it to him, so he could only pretend that he wanted it for himself. Didn't you not want to fuse with the inheritance? Long Zun was suspicious. The situation is different now. The strength of the divine kingdom is too strong. If I rely on myself to comprehend it, I don't know how long it will take. Long Chun shook his head and sighed. You should have thought like that long ago. Otherwise, you would have already mastered 6 ultimate profound meanings now. Long Zun was very pleased. She immediately took out an inheritance and handed it to Long Chin. After thinking for a while, she said, "Why don't I give it all to you now?" "Not for now. I will ask you for it after I fuse with it." Long Chun took the inheritance and smiled. "All right. I am really worried about leaving it with you. What if one day you become a good person and give it to Qin Feiyong and the others?" Long Zun nodded. Cough, cough. Long Chun suddenly coughed dryly. "What's wrong?" Long Zun looked at him suspiciously. "Nothing. It's just that my throat is a little uncomfortable." Long Chun hurriedly waved his hand guiltily. He looked at Long Qin and said, "Qin, let's go." "Okay." Long Qin nodded. "Where are you going?" Long Zun quickly asked. "To take a look at the situation in the eastern, northern, and southern continents," Long Chun said without looking back. Then, he quickly left with Long Qin. "That scared me to death. I almost exposed myself." Long Qin patted her towering chest. "Yes. I also didn't expect Mother to suddenly say such a thing." Long Chun shook his head and smiled bitterly. In front of the stream, Long Zun looked at the backs of the siblings and said, "Ling Long, do you feel that they are hiding something from me?" "Is there?" Ling Long was stunned. She shook her head and said, "I don't think so. Sir, don't think so much. They are not young anymore. They have their own judgment. You don't understand. I am afraid that they will be taken advantage of, because I know Qin Feiyong and the others too well. None of them are easy to deal with. When the time comes and we sell the 2 of them, we might have to help count the money." Long Zun shook his head. He was very worried. Ling Long's eyes flashed slightly. She smiled and said, "Qin Feiyong is very shrewd, but young Master Long Chun is not bad either. It won't happen." "I hope so." Long Zun nodded. He looked at Ling Long and said, "Since you have already announced to Madman and the others that you are my adopted daughter, then you will truly be my adopted daughter from now on." "Ah." Ling Long looked at Long Zun in astonishment. "After spending some time together, I found that you were indeed a good child." Long Zun smiled. Seeing that Ling Long was silent, he asked, "Why? Are you unwilling?" "I am willing." Ling Long came back to her senses and immediately knelt on the ground. She said respectfully, "Ling Long greets, sir." Long Zun raised his eyebrows. "No." Ling Long quickly corrected herself. "Ling Long greets mother." Hearing this, Long Zun's brows immediately relaxed. He smiled and said, "Don't call Chun and Qin or young master and young mistress anymore. Just call them brother and sister." "Okay." Ling Long nodded. "Since we are already a family, then you have to help me keep an eye on the 2 of them in the future. If they do anything out of line, you must tell me immediately." Long Zun instructed. "Okay." Ling Long replied respectfully. Western Continent. In less than half an hour, Ice Dragon appeared. Long Chun and his sister immediately went up to greet him. "What about the 15 inheritances?" Ice Dragon asked. Long Chun waved his hand, and 15 iron boxes appeared. Ice Dragon said in surprise, "Qin Feiyong and the others are actually assured to give you 15 ultimate inheritances? Our trust in each other now is beyond your imagination." Long Chun chuckled. "This is not bad." Ice Dragon nodded. He was very clear about the foundation of the Divine Kingdom. If the Sky Cloud Realm did not unite, they would not be able to fight against them. "Father, what about the inheritances we need?" Long Qin asked a little anxiously. Ice Dragon turned his head to look at Long Qin and suddenly asked a question that caught Long Qin off guard. "Did you meet someone you like?" "Huh." Long Qin looked at Ice Dragon. "What is this? If you didn't meet someone you like, would you help them like this?" Ice Dragon chuckled. The corner of Long Qin's mouth twitched. Sure enough, his imagination is amazing. If you meet someone you like, you must treat them sincerely. Ice Dragon stretched out his hand and rubbed Long Qin's head. Then, with a wave of his hand, 15 iron boxes appeared. The iron boxes were not opened, but one could clearly feel the aura of the laws. There was the destruction law, the life law, the death law, and so on. Don't we have the death law here? Why did you give us the death law? Long Chun was suspicious. Both Ancestor Mo and Li Feng needed an ultimate meaning of the death law, so they only needed to exchange for 13 inheritances. But now, Ice Dragon took out 15 iron boxes. Was he planning to give them 2 as a gift? It's different. Ice Dragon shook his head and smiled. Long Chun and Long Qin looked at each other. Aren't they all inheritances? What's different about them? Ice Dragon God smiled secretly and said, "Open the iron boxes and take a look." Long Chun grabbed an iron box that contained the death law inheritance and opened the lid, but found that the lid was unmoved. What's going on? Immediately, he couldn't help but be stunned. He used more strength, but found that the iron box still couldn't be opened. Ice Dragon smiled but didn't say anything. Seeing this, Long Qin couldn't help but try. He used all his strength, but the iron box still couldn't be opened. "Father, you." The brother and sister looked at Ice Dragon in shock. "There's a seal on it. If you want to get the inheritance inside, you must first unlock the seal on it." Ice Dragon said, "Seal?" The brother and sister were stunned. They released their divine sense and shrouded the iron box. Sure enough, they found a layer of seal. Then, they looked at the other 14 iron boxes. Every iron box had a seal. "Father, what does this mean?" Long Chun retracted his divine sense and asked suspiciously, "It's very simple. If they want to get the inheritance, they must first unlock the seal, and the way to unlock the seal is to kill the heavens chosen of the divine kingdom." Ice Dragon said, "Kill the heavens chosen of the divine kingdom?" The brother and sister exchanged glances. "That's right. You'll be in charge of supervising them. Every time they kill a heavens chosen, help them unlock the seal on a box. And the only way to unlock the seal is to use your blood essence." Ice Dragon smiled. This, Long Chin's mouth twitched. He smiled bitterly and said, "Isn't this a bit unfair?" "Who says it's unfair? I agree with Father's approach. After all, there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world." Long Qin nodded, his expression showing a bit of excitement. Long Chun was speechless. He said it so righteously, thinking that everyone didn't know. He just wanted to use this opportunity to torture White-Eyed Wolf and the others. Qin is right. There's no such thing as a free lunch. If you want to get benefits, you must rely on your own efforts. Besides, killing the heavens chosen of the divine kingdom is also training them. Ice Dragon smiled faintly. Chapter 4035. Yes, yes, yes. Long Qin nodded and looked at Long Chun with a threatening look in his eyes. Father has given a lot of thought. You can't go against him. Long Chun smiled bitterly. Long Qin looked at Long Chun and said, "Also, you can't help them break the seal in private. Otherwise, I'll ask Father to take back these inheritances." "That's for sure. You can't hide it. And the heaven's pride that you kill must be a monster like Jiang Yunshuang. You can't just make up the numbers. You have to kill them completely. One more thing. You can't help others. You have to do it with your own strength." Ice Dragon said. By killing them completely, he meant that they had to be completely killed. They couldn't leave behind a soul that would jump out after a period of time. "Okay, I'll listen to you." The father and daughter echoed each other, making Long Chun feel powerless. Then, he put away the 15 iron boxes and took out the divine sound transmission stone. "Father, let's establish a contract bridge so that we don't have to get Mother's permission every time we look for you. If I'm not in the Sky Cloud realm, you can't contact me." "There's no need for that," Ice Dragon said. "What if you're in the Sky Cloud realm?" Long Chen asked. Ice Dragon pondered for a while and nodded. "Okay, as father and daughter, it's a bit of a joke if we don't establish a contract bridge." Then, he took out the divine sound transmission stone. After establishing the contract bridge, Ice Dragon pondered for a while and took out 2 palm-sized white tokens. He then refined 2 drops of blood essence and fused them with the tokens. Then, he handed the 2 tokens to the brother and sister and said with a smile, "You can take this too. When you're in danger, crush the token. No matter where I am, you'll be able to sense it." "That's even better." Long Qin immediately took the token happily. The moment Long Chun grabbed the token, a warm current rose in his heart. His father still cared about them. "Then that's it. You can do it." Ice Dragon looked at the 2 of them and smiled encouragingly. Then, he put away the 15 ultimate inheritances of the Law of Death, turned around, took a step, and instantly disappeared into the void. "Are you happy now? If they want to obtain these inheritances, they will have to curry favor with you first." Long Chun put away the token and the divine sound transmission stone. He looked at Long Qin and shook his head with a smile. "I've helped them so much. Shouldn't they try to please me?" Long Qin smiled proudly. Long Chun shook his head and smiled. "Then let's go to the Shin family village and tell them the good news." Very soon, the brother and sister arrived in the sky above the Shin family village. Black Tortoise World. Seeing the 2 of them appear, Madman and the others immediately stood up and looked at the 2 of them with apprehension in their eyes. Sigh. Long Qin looked at the group of people and sighed. He didn't agree. Seeing this, everyone looked disappointed. Long Chun also played along under Long Qin's threat. He sighed and said, "We've already tried our best, but, sigh, I'm really sorry. I'm fine." Qin Feiyong waved his hand. White-Eyed Wolf looked at the 2 of them and asked, "Can't we discuss it again?" We almost knelt down and begged. Long Qin sat on the stone bench and kept shaking his head and sighing. White-Eyed Wolf was also disappointed. He sat on the stone bench dejectedly. Madman and Demon Ancestor also had a look of regret. "Don't be like this. Ice Dragon has no obligation to help us. Let's just accept it." Qin Feiyong looked at the 3 of them and comforted them. "What else can we do? We can't just rob them. We don't have the strength." Madman shook his head, but in his heart, he was really disappointed. Long Qin looked at the depressed expressions of the group of people and suddenly laughed. "I'm just teasing you." Father agreed, and the inheritance has already been exchanged. "What?" The group of people immediately looked up at Long Qin. Qin Feiyong was also surprised. Long Chun smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, 15 iron boxes appeared and were neatly placed on the stone table. The group of people immediately looked at the iron boxes. The size was about the same, but the shape and pattern of the iron boxes had obviously changed. And without using divine sense, they could clearly sense the aura of the inheritance. "Are you surprised?" Long Qin looked at White-Eyed Wolf and the others jokingly. "What a surprise." White-Eyed Wolf jumped up and hugged Long Qin. He said excitedly, "Thank you, thank you." This sudden scene made Long Qin's cheeks blush. Qin Feiyong and the others also immediately looked at the 2 of them with a playful expression. Cough, cough. Fire Dance next to him was also stunned. When she came back to her senses, she coughed hard. Immediately, White-Eyed Wolf quivered and hurriedly let go of Long Qin. He turned to look at Fire Dance and said, "That, Sister Phoenix, this, don't take it the wrong way. I'm purely grateful. I can understand." Fire Dance nodded and gritted her teeth. White-Eyed Wolf looked at this scene and couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. "That, Brother Wolf, quickly open it." Lunatic changed the topic. Otherwise, Brother Wolf would be in trouble again. "Okay." White-Eyed Wolf nodded and immediately grabbed an iron box. But the next moment, he was dumbfounded and couldn't open it. "What's the situation?" The others also grabbed an iron box, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't open the iron box in their hands. Immediately after, the group of people looked at Long Chun and his sister. "Don't look at me. Let Chiner speak." Long Chun drank his tea. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on Long Qin. "This is not my problem. It's Father's idea." Long Qin immediately explained the conditions of the ice dragon to him. This, White-Eyed Wolf and the others looked at each other. Wasn't this making things difficult for them? It was easy to kill these sky prides, but every time they came to the sky cloud realm, they would leave their souls in the divine kingdom. It was useless to kill them. It's indeed easy for you, but for me, this is a very difficult task. Looking at White-Eyed Wolf and Lunatic, the demon ancestor smiled bitterly. What's so difficult about you? White-Eyed Wolf was puzzled. Didn't you hear what Longchen's said? No help from others. You can only do it yourself. The demon ancestor smiled bitterly. With our strength, of course, we don't need help from others. Besides, in the face of Ryuko and the others, no one can help us except Feather Emperor. White-Eyed Wolf said, That's not what I mean. My father means that you have to kill the sky prides of the divine kingdom by yourself. For example, the demon ancestor. If he wants these inheritances, he has to rely on his own strength to kill the sky prides. We, including you, can't help him. Longchen explained, So that's how it is. White-Eyed Wolf suddenly understood. Looking at the demon ancestor, he grinned and said, That's indeed quite difficult. With the eye of despair, it's not like there's no hope. We just need to find a good opportunity to kill him in one blow. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Yes. The demon ancestor nodded. White-Eyed Wolf rolled his eyes and looked at Longchen, saying, Can't we discuss it? Let's integrate these inheritances first and then kill the sky prides of the divine kingdom? Absolutely not. It's already not easy for my father to agree to exchange these laws for you. And my father also said that if you dare to cheat, he will take back these inheritances directly. Longchen shook his head. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Longchen again. Longchen had always been easy to talk to. Longchen took a sip of tea and looked up at White-Eyed Wolf's longing eyes. He shook his head and smiled, saying, This time, I really can't help you. Qin has full authority. I don't believe that I can't open this broken box without your blood essence. White-Eyed Wolf's temper rose. He took out the Crimson Dragon Shield and smashed it at the iron box. With a clang, the iron box didn't show any signs of breaking. It's so hard. White-Eyed Wolf activated various laws and crazily rushed toward the iron box, but it was useless against the seal on it. Save it. Do you think you can shake the seal set by my father? Longchen looked down on him. White-Eyed Wolf's temper was completely gone. He looked at Longchen and said, Let's discuss it. No means no. Longchen turned his head away. Do you believe that I won't beat you up? White-Eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows. Come on. Longchen was not afraid at all. Instead, he looked provocative. White-Eyed Wolf glared at her for a moment and finally gave up. This woman, he couldn't offend her now. But suddenly, he rolled his eyes and transmitted his voice, Demon Ancestor, You look quite handsome. Why don't you sacrifice your looks? Demon Ancestor's face suddenly darkened. What kind of rotten idea was this? At the same time, Longchen's forehead was also bulging with veins, and he said angrily, Damn wolf cub, what are you muttering about? Don't you want these inheritances anymore? Huh. White-Eyed Wolf quickly looked at Longchen and found that Longchen's eyes were faintly glowing. He immediately realized that something was wrong and said, Woman, what's wrong with you? Why do you like to eavesdrop on other people's conversations so much? You're reprimanding me? Longchen was stunned and sneered. I think you really don't want it anymore. After that, he got up and grabbed the 15 iron boxes. White-Eyed Wolf saw that the situation was not good and immediately rushed up, protecting all the iron boxes in his arms, and smiled apologetically. Let's talk nicely. Let's talk nicely. Qin Feiyong and the others had a suspicious look on their faces as they watched the two of them arguing endlessly. What did White-Eyed Wolf say to Demon Ancestor? Why was Longchen so angry? Apologize. Longchen stared at White-Eyed Wolf. Okay. I apologize. I'm sorry. White-Eyed Wolf gave in. He had to. Whether he could get these inheritances now depended on this woman's mood. If she was not in a good mood, even if they successfully killed the heavenly son of the divine kingdom and did not help them unlock the seal, they could only stare at her helplessly. After all, Longchen had already said that he would give full authority to Longchen. That's more like it. Longchen smiled with satisfaction, returned to his seat, and said, Instead of wasting time here, It's better to think of a way to kill the heavenly son of the divine kingdom. Yes, I agree. White-eyed wolf nodded, looked at demon ancestor and lunatic and said, then let's think about it. What's there to think about? If we want to kill them completely, we have to enter the divine kingdom. Lunatic rubbed his forehead. Not only do we have to enter the divine kingdom, but we also have to kill our way to their nest, because their divine souls will definitely be left in their nest. And whether it's Ryuko or Jiang Yunshuang, they all have extraordinary status in the divine kingdom. The divine souls they leave behind will definitely be carefully protected by the monarch, the divine king, and the human sovereign. In other words, if we want to kill them completely, we have to face the experts of the older generation of the divine kingdom. It seems very simple, but after careful analysis, you will find that when it comes to actually taking action, it's harder than ascending to the sky. Demon Ancestor shook his head and said helplessly. With his current strength, he had to find an opportunity to face people like Ryuko, let alone the older generation of the divine kingdom. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.